Good morning. Welcome to the program. Today is the 8th day of August, the 8th day of the 8th month of the year 2023. Welcome to the program. This is Good Morning Kenya on KBC Channel 1. How are you doing? So the president is still on the mountain. One was perceived as charm offensive. This is one of the biggest tour after his win in the last general election in a region which voted largely to him, almost 90%. That is a huge margin. We'll be taking a look at the effect of that visit, political development tour, and so much more. We'll be having that and much more with my panelist who will be joining me in studio at the top of the hour. That is Abdul Harokore, MP, Mandera South. We have got Gibson Gesore, an advocate of the High Court, as well as Francis Mwangangi, Deputy Governor of Machakos County, will be in studio. We have got a political buffet. Be ready to be served. Good morning, Vivian Degu.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Fantastic. I'm doing great. And you?
I'm doing amazing as well. Good morning and welcome to each and every one of you who is tuning in to Good Morning Kenya. We are pleased that you chose us to begin your morning. Now, today being a Tuesday, we will be tackling matters health, our topic of discussion being infertility and IVF. What exactly is infertility? What are the main causes of infertility in the country? Is there a gender that is more prone to it? How about IVF? How effective and successful has it been so far? These are some of the questions that will be answered later on the program. You definitely want to stick around for that. Good morning, Ram.
Yes, good morning to you too, Vivian, and I hope that all of you have woken up fine and healthy today. Just to inspire us this morning, I'd like to read from the book of Proverbs, chapter 3, verses 5 to 8. And this is something that as you kickstart your morning this fine Tuesday, you can be able to look forward to something great. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean in your own understanding. And in all your ways, make sure that you submit to him, and he will make sure that he directs your path. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and shun evil. This will bring health to your body and nourishment to your bones. My name is Ram Maguko. Thank you for choosing Good Morning Kenya. Amen. Regina.
Amen. Amen.
Oh, Mr. Producer, we said we need to mix it up.
Amen.
I can't be speaking after Pastor Ram Aguko if you did not know in another life, in another aspect, other than being a colleague and an anchor at the breakfast show. Ram is indeed a man of God, a pastor, but that is neither here nor there. Thank you very much, Ram, for that word of encouragement that we need to submit unto the Lord. Which is fine, because submission unto the Lord means that you receive everything good that comes your way. Thank you for that word. And it is the 8th of August, yes, 2023. I too, today, as daddy's girl, I'm celebrating my father who turns 62 today. So Stanley Manyara, happy birthday. Well, those who did not know that I'm daddy's girl, I am.
Allah?
Maybe it speaks to how we are.
The way you're tough.
Your father did a great job.
Yeah. Mzee aliweka strict. Okay.
Regina is a very sober lady, a very mature one, and eloquent. I'm proud. Your father
he did well. Let's say he
did a good job.
That man is an authoritarian.
To maybe sing for him.
Well, growing up, do you know if my father coughed, we would all answer. And it's not a joke. Like yes.
That socks.
Yes.
Danny, tie.
And he'll say no. I've not called anyone.
Oh, yeah.
I was just clearing my throat.
Okay.
That is who my dad.
You go back to your hiding places.
Yes, that was my dad. But also he taught me how to work with my hands. As we speak right now, I'm a proud daughter of a carpenter. He taught me how to do TNG, kufunga sawdust, na kupima mbao foot by foot. And he doesn't use a calculator.
Nipatie 2x4.
Wow.
Yes, 2x4.
6x10.
Nataka mahogany, camphor, pine, I'm a blue gum. That's the conversation we used to have in our household.
Allah.
Happy birthday, Dad. I'm glad that I'm here and you're here to see how far you've taken us. Happy birthday. Now, on to serious matters. President William Ruto as well as opposition leader Raila Odinga have ruled out a handshake, or rather power sharing agreement. I'm sure Victor is going to be addressing this in not long. You're watching Good Morning Kenya, and I'm Regina Manyara. In the headlines commences now. Now, President William Ruto says the opposition must denounce violence before the 10-member bipartisan dialogue committee can begin talks, acknowledging sentiments by Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition leader Raila Odinga that he is not interested in joining President Ruto's administration. The head of state said he has instructed his team to talk with opposition, but added that a political handshake and violence experienced during the anti-government protests are off the table.
With the political leadership in Mount Kenya expected Tuesday, President William Ruto maintained that the anticipated dialogue between government and opposition would only happen under specified parameters. Reacting to the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition leader Raila Odinga's sentiments, the president called on the opposition to go a step further and denounce violence witnessed in the recent anti-government protests.
Wamekubali jana ya kwamba mambo ya handshake hata hawa hawataki. Hiyo tumekubaliana. Sasa mimi nataka niwaulize jambo la pili. Kwa sababu mmekubali mambo ya handshake, mmewachana nayo. Mimi jambo la pili nataka niwaambie pia tukubaliane mambo ya vita na fujo na kuharibu mali na kuharibu maisha biashara ya watu. Pia na hiyo tukubaliane tukomeshe katika taifa letu la Kenya.
We want Kimani Ichung'wa at your team. Before you start these talks, you make it a condition that Raila Odinga and his team must denounce violence as a way of sorting political issues in this country. Tumekubaliana hiyo?
Revealing that his team had firm instructions on what should be the agenda of the Kenya Kwanza side in the talks, President Ruto says he will not back down on the non-negotiables.
If we agree on those two, that there is no handshake and there is no violence, then we can proceed as a country, we can discuss the rest of the things. Mambo ile ingine yote tunaweza kuzungumza, lakini mambo mawili hayako katika mjadala.
Wale jamaa wasijaribu kusema hao ndio wataendesha serikali hii. Wanajaribu kusema watu waende kufungua masava na nini. Kwani mwaka mmoja imepita na ujui kwamba rais wa Kenya ni William Samoei Ruto?
Sisi tuko tayari kuongea mambo yanayohusu mwananchi wa kawaida. Mambo ya kibinafsi, mambo ya kugawa mamlaka, mambo ya nusu mkate, mambo ya handshake, hayo hayako kwa meza ya sisi kuongea na wale marafiki zetu.
Mimi yangu ya mwisho rais wetu, hii maneno ya mazungumzo, mimi kwa roho yangu hata sitaki. Mimi hata ningesema tuachane na mazungumzo.
On the thorny issue of the cost of living, the president says his administration is implementing its plan of subsidizing farm inputs and the efforts are bearing fruit.
Furniture tutatengeneza hapa Kenya na nyinyi vijana mjipange. Mambo ya samaki tutapeleka vijana wetu kule Indian Ocean wavue samaki, tukule samaki ya Kenya. Neguo.
Ile mpango umechukua. Ile laini mimi naona wewe unapitia. Ni ile ya mzee Mwai Kibaki. Ya kupanga uchumi.
On Tuesday, the president is also expected to hold a cabinet meeting at the Sagana State Lodge.
Well, that is John Jacob Recuria who prepared that particular report, and we are going to be keeping tabs on those two items, the cabinet meeting that is stated for Sagana State Lodge, as well as the commencement of the talks. That is the day, 8th of August 2023, when the talks resume. Now, talking about the cost of living, is that the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority Managing Director Daniel Kipto has been summoned by the High Court to show cause why he should not be cited for contempt of court over the implementation of a fuel levy contained in the Finance Act of 2023. A three-judge bench led by Justice David Majanja ordered Kipto to appear in person on September 13th of this year, when his case will be heard. The court has consolidated all the 10 petitions filed by various individuals and organizations against the implementation of the Finance Act of 2023.
All is set for the debut hearing of the Finance Act 2023 case from September 13 and 14, 2023, even as Kenyans tighten their belts for now for the deduction of the housing levy. A pre-trial hearing of the Finance Act 2023 kicked off at the High Court Monday morning. The bench led by Justice David Majanja gave room to the petitioners to allow consolidation of all the petitions for ease of administration.
All the petitions listed before us today are now consolidated for purposes of hearing. We'll hear them all together.
A move that was applauded by all the petitioners.
We pray that first, that there be a conservatory order, that the Section 84 of the Finance Act cannot be implemented.
Busia Senator Okiya Omtata's application to cross-examine the speakers of both the National Assembly and the Senate on their sworn affidavits was however declined.
Because the affidavit is fundamental to determining one question, whether or not there was concurrence between the two speakers.
Either the Speaker of the National Assembly was not across what was in the report, which was tabled in the National Assembly about 17 days before his vote.
It's a new issue in terms of John Flores, and I reiterate that we were not parties. Senator Omtata asked the Court of Appeal, my Lord, the Court of Appeal to make this court's proceedings a judicially noticeable.
A move that did not sync well with the senator, who claimed that the matter was of great public interest to establish the truth.
We are not persuaded that we should exercise this jurisdiction at this stage in view of the fact that those issues were all before the court when it made the decision. Must be recalled that this is a decision in rem, and it binds all the parties whether they were before the court or not.
Law Societies of Kenya's prayer to persuade the court to suspend the Court of Appeal ruling on implementation of the Finance Act 2023 all fell flat.
So that the petitions are now scheduled for hearing, and it is on that basis that we decline to give any interim orders, because we believe those matters of conservatory orders were resolved by the Court of Appeal.
But the court was equivocal on EPRA MD Daniel Kipto, who will have to appear in court when the hearing begins for disobeying court orders.
There was an application by Mr. Omtata for contempt. Summons shall issue to Mr. Bargoria to attend court on 13th of September.
The petitioners, respondents and interested parties have been ordered to file the application latest by 31st of August 2023. Reporting from Milimani Locos in the county of Nairobi, I'm Ruth Wamboy.
September 13th, we'll be keeping tabs. Now, the Intergovernmental Relations Technical Committee has pleaded for support from the Senate to enable it achieve its mandate in enhancing devolution. The committee, which on Monday briefed the Senate Committee on Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations on the status of transfer of functions to county governments, noted that there were still functional components that needed to be unbundled into sectors such as health, water, and education, which require additional resources.
Appearing before the Senate's Devolution Committee, the Intergovernmental Relations Technical Committee, IGRTC, cited what it termed as functional components that needed to be fully transferred to county governments based on a report prepared by various stakeholders.
There will not be anybody who will say they are surprised. We have done 12 reports for each of the sectors, and those are the documents we would like them to validate.
Most of the unbundled functions fall under health, water, education, energy, agriculture, lands and public works sectors.
A number of the governors are stressing that they would want delineation, they would want ownership of ECD on its own, and then the primary remain with the other piece of land, which is proving to be a bit difficult.
The report held, initially counties were very confident that it is their function, but in analysis we realized that that has to do with international relations, and a county cannot confidently handle an international relation issue.
Ebola could actually come through Busia. So properly speaking, whose business is it to protect Kenya from Ebola crossing across the board? It's national
government.
It is for this reason that the Kithinji Kiragu-led committee sought the Senate support in funding the full development of these functions.
Now it is going to require a very collaborative effort between Parliament and our committee to be able to put this thing through. Because for sure there will be resistance. The governors are very adamant. They don't want to hear any transfer functions without the transfer of associated resources.
IGRTC also raised concern of interference in its mandate by the State Department of Devolution.
You remember very well, there's a time we were looking for money to do valuation of assets, and even the transfer of functions. And we had worked hard in IBEC and all corridors to get the money. When the money came, it came under the fault of that ministry.
It will be 10 years since we promulgated the Constitution next week. Then the question is, what has the Constitution done in regard to matters of devolving some of those units? We'll be keeping tabs on that this week as we mark that day. That's going to be the 10th. Actually, it happens to be this week and not next week. Now, the government is in the process of designing the Kenya Youth Development Bill. Youth Affairs, Arts and Sports Cabinet Secretary Ababu Namwamba says the legal instrument seeks to support young people's growth, independence and promote their active citizenship along empowerment to improve their living standards.
The National Youth Week kicked off Monday at the University of Nairobi. The event will culminate on the International Youth Day on Saturday and will be anchored on three main pillars, namely advancement of knowledge, skills and attitude development for the youth, engagement in the global goals, especially climate change action. Engagement of youth as drivers of change, innovation and creativity to sufficiently address the climate change crisis and attainment of the global goals and enhancement of enterprise development among the youth. Youth Affairs, Arts and Sports Cabinet Secretary Ababu Namwamba says plans are at an advanced stage to formulate the Kenya Youth Development Bill.
The bill shall regulate measures and activities undertaken by the government aimed at improving the social status and position of youth in addressing their needs and interests.
The government is also in the process of reviewing the National Youth Council Act and number 10 of 2009 so as to align it to the Constitution.
This will assist the ministry to ensure that all the youth concerns, needs and aspirations are integrated in the socio-economic setup at both levels of governance.
And even this exposure that we are having now as we launch the Youth Week is going to take us places.
And on Thursday, August 10th, the National Youth Council will lead discussion on fostering partnership towards achieving bottom-up economic transformation agenda.
Joe is a fashion designer.
For the youth that showcase their different innovations and works at this Hustlers Bazaar, more collaborations and funding from the government will ensure that they too contribute to developing the country's economy.
If the government could create particular spaces where artists could get to showcase their art at very affordable prices or no charge at all, it would definitely help the artists be encouraged.
I've interacted with the able differently, and I would say they're even more able than even some of us. Maybe they can even come up with an initiative that will support talents when it comes to able different.
The National Youth Week will also have panel discussions on crucial topics affecting the youth. The weeks-long celebrations that will come to an end on Saturday at the Moi International Sports Centre in Kasarani will not only seek to celebrate innovations by the youth, but also address matters affecting their daily lives.
Now on to business. The government has assured Kenyans of their data security after cyber criminals tried to infiltrate government services. Information, Communication and the Digital Economy Cabinet Secretary Eliud Owalo says the public and private entities have a crucial role to play in building a robust data protection ecosystem. The CS spoke during the launch of the Jitume Digital Laboratory at the coast, which is expected to address connectivity as well as open up job opportunities for the youth.
Last month, a criminal network calling itself Anonymous Sudan attempted to attack various Kenyan online platforms in a bid to sabotage service delivery. The government says the attacks were thwarted by the National Computer Security Incident Response Team, though the public could not access services on popular platforms like eCitizen. Information, Communication and the Digital Economy Cabinet Secretary Eliud Owalo says the government has boosted cybersecurity measures to deter future attacks.
We have embarked as Kenya government on an ambitious program of digitalization, but in the same vein, we want to ensure that any data that comes into the hands of the government, public data that the government holds in trust, is both private and secure in conformity to the law.
Owalo says the government is working with the private sector to strengthen the capacity of local IT infrastructure. The CS further says the government will empower the Office Data Protection Commissioner to be at the heart of data and digital transformational agenda.
We want to manage data security and privacy concerns in a more efficient and effective manner. Nothing, ladies and gentlemen, could demonstrate our commitment towards this better than taking the operationalization entities closer to the people on the ground where real work or the real digitalization programs are being undertaken.
Data Commissioner Immaculate Kasait says data is critical in the fourth industrial revolution and that Kenya must not be left behind in the digital revolution.
Technology has its footprint in the growth of African economy, the digital transformation of all sectors of the country, and under the ministry, from telecommunication, healthcare, agriculture, housing, urban development and education, financial services, and all ensure that we embrace innovation using digital solutions.
The Information Cabinet Secretary spoke during the inauguration of a digital skills laboratory at the Kenya Coast National Polytechnic in Mombasa. The Jitume Digital Laboratory is expected to address connectivity as well as open up job opportunities for young people. From Mombasa County, I am Ann Mburu.
Now, the government is encouraging Kenyans to tap affirmative funds whose application and uptake remains low. MSME's Principal Secretary Susan Mangeni is challenging the youth to apply for the Youth Enterprise Development Fund, KITI, to capitalize their business ideas or expand existing businesses.
About 2.97 million Kenyans are unemployed, of which 1.59 million are those aged between 20 and 29. In response, the government is calling on the youth to take advantage of government initiatives such as the Youth Enterprise Development Fund to capitalize their innovative ideas or grow existing business ventures.
The civil service, where it is today, cannot create any job. There is no room for expansion. There's no job in the civil service. So where we are going to create jobs is in the private sector. And how we are going to create jobs is through enterprises.
Mangeni says the Youth Fund will be included under the Hustler Fund platform, where successful applicants will be determined based on their credit score without the requirement of collateral in efforts to reduce barriers to credit access.
The more you borrow and you repay regularly, you're building your positive credit score that can give you an access to financing, even to commercial banks. Because if you can be trusted with the lower limits amount, you can equally be trusted with the higher limits amount. It's the question of building trust and introducing a new collateral system that will be focused around your credit score.
They spoke during the disbursement of 30 million shillings worth of Youth Enterprise Development Fund checks to successful applicants, where through the program, beneficiaries are offered financial support and mentorship to facilitate them to kickstart or expand their businesses.
We are focusing on ensuring that the message goes to as many youths as possible in Kenya through our officers, not just by them sitting at the office, but also to look what are some of these opportunities the youths can get and where our clientele are.
To sports, the national boxing team Heat Squad jetted back home yesterday from the just concluded Africa Boxing Championship held in Yaoundé, Cameroon. Head coach Musa Benjamin says the Kenyan pugilist will now shift focus on the Olympic qualifiers slated for September in Dakar, Senegal.
The national boxing team Heat Squad arrived back home Monday after bagging 7 bronze medals at the just concluded Africa Boxing Championship held in Yaoundé, Cameroon. The performance saw Kenya ranked 17th in the continent, a drop from last year's performance where Kenya had placed 12th in Maputo, Mozambique. The bronze medalists were Peter Abuti, heavyweight, Robert Okaka, light heavyweight, David Karanja, lightweight, Elizabeth and Diego, light heavyweight, Christine Ongare, minimum weight, Shafi Bakari, bantam, and Amina Mada. The Kenyan pugilists will now shift focus to the Olympic qualifiers, which will be held in Dakar, Senegal in September.
Tumekuwa disappointed kidogo manake hatukuweza kupata yale medali ambazo tulikuwa tumetarget ambayo ilikuwa ni gold. Tulikuwa tuna matumaini kwamba tungeweza kupata kati ya hayo semi-final 7 tunaweza kupata finalists na baadaye gold medalists kama 3 au 4. Lakini kwa ajili ya mambo tofauti hatukuweza kupata medali hayo.
Tumejituma, tumefanya vile tuwezavyo. Tunajivunia tumepata bronze na tunatumaini tunaweza fanya more better, so ni kurudi tu na kuzidi work hard. Najua the next tournament ambapo tunaenda kujitayarishia itakuwa qualifier. So tuko na muda kidogo wa kusharpen mistakes zenye tumekuwa nazo katika huu mchezo.
Heat Squad bagged 3 silver medals in the previous edition of the Africa Boxing Championship held in Maputo, Mozambique.
Chris Ochieng came off the bench to score the winning goal as Bidco United beat Nairobi City Stars 1-0 in the opening elite pre-season match at the Utali grounds, Nairobi. In another match, Kariobangi Sharks humbled Rooster Rangers 2-1.
Complex na Tanzania.
Kibera ladies opened the scoring through Maximila Ruby in the 18th minute.
Anafunga goli la kimiujiza hapa. Fataki kubwa yake M6. Changizi huko kwa David Kalama.
Dennis Owalo and Robinson Asenwa came close for City Stars, while new signings Clinton Asiago and Eric Michibu were Bidco's main attacking threat.
Owalo, pisha pale Owalo. Bado Owalo nyaka goalkeeper Stanley.
Both sides missed clear chances in the first half, with the match going to the break scores at 0-0. Bidco made a number of chances before the restart, while City Stars opted to remain 9 of the players who started the match. Bidco made a number of chances before the restart, while City Stars opted to retain the 9 of the players who started the match. New signing Brian Boyer twice came close to breaking the deadlock in the 49th and 53rd minute. The winning goal came in the 64th minute through Bidco substitute Chris Ochieng.
Onyango Yobo akampisha Chris Ochieng, nafasi nzuri, goli la kwanza. Anatiliwa pasi nzuri.
In another match, Kariobangi Sharks humbled Posta Rangers 2-1.
Kevin Lukotiala Fere! Kevin Lukotiala Fere!
Madeira girls, popularly known as Soccer Assassins, were crowned FKF Women's Division 1 champions after a convincing 4-1 victory over Kibera Soccer Ladies at Rift Valley Institute of Science and Technology grounds in Nakuru County. Meanwhile, Bungoma Queens bagged the last promotion sport.
Na Tanzania.
Kibera ladies opened the scoring through Maximila Ruby in the 18th minute.
Anafunga goli la kimiujiza hapa. Fataki kubwa yake M16.
Charity Midema equalized for Soka Assassins in the 24th minute.
Goli tamu sana la tatu hapa.
Valerie Nikesa scored the second goal for Soka Assassins in the 31st minute before getting her brace in the 82nd minute. Faith Atieno scored the 4th goal for Assassins.
Nina furaha sana, ingawaje kulingana na namna tulikuwa tunafanyia tulikuwa tunatarajia. Kwa hivyo nina furaha, matarajio yetu yametimia.
Madira Girls make history as the first high school team to play in the FKF Women's Premier League. The two finalists walked away with a cash prize of $500,000 shillings.
Ya kina dada kwa mara ya kwanza katika historia yao, amefurahi sana.
Well, matching there, my director says, well, his vision is a bit, blurry. He thought that was the men's team. Well, those are ladies playing. And that's just a recap of what happened in as far as FKF Women's Soccer Championships are concerned. And in case you missed what was happening yesterday, just remember that we are streaming live on KBC YouTube Live. And we have one viewer who is watching all the way from Guangzhou, China. That is Tony T. Keep watching. You can also peruse our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke, and our Twitter handle is also open for your feedback at KBC Channel 1. Mine is at Ray Manyara. Up next is a candid conversation in regard to where we are politically and what it means 10 years on after the promulgation of the Constitution, ahead of that particular anniversary that is going to be taking place. The Devolution Conference actually been taking place in Kericho. I'm Regina Manyara. I wish you a pleasant viewing ahead.
오늘은 디데이입니다. 오늘은 디데이입니다.
나는 내가 다음 약속이 안 나오거든.
걱정 말아요. 내가 계속 지켜보고 있을 거니까.
그냥 잘못된 줄 알고. 정말 주의세요.
Tak inaczej nie będzie. Jasne? Jasne.
Boy, ping pong! You did it! This is awesome! From now on we are friends. Friends till the end. Seems like it was meant to be. I'm so happy it's you and me. You and me. Wonder Star.
Ningekuwa wewe ningehesabu masaa ya pumzi niliyobakia nayo hapa ulimwenguni.
Hapa tushamea. Mizizi shakita.
Wewe support vile anavyonifanya.
Nakwambia angalia hizi kelele ndo mimi sitaki.
Mbona ushirikina huu?
Kate amerudi.
Live from Broadcasting House, Nairobi, Kenya. This is KBC English Service.
Welcome to Beat Time Show, the very best of the 80s and 90s. Be John Korani, JK.
Timeless music hits across the decades.
This is the place to be after you've had a tough day. Join the Sundowner group on Facebook.
Just watch. The sound of KBC English Service.
I'm the host Caroline Wangishi, Carol Gatata Moshero.
My name is Geoff from Ongai B.
News, information and entertainment. KBC English Service, Kenya's official national radio.
And welcome back. It's now 7 minutes past 7 a.m. Welcome to the program. This is People and Politics on KBC Channel 1. The show now right now is Good Morning Kenya. All right. Before we get into the discussion, let me just introduce my guest in studio already. I have got Abdul Harokore, who is member of Mandera South constituency. Mheshimiwa, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Karibu sana. And Francis Mongangi, who is the deputy governor of Machakos County. I say that for us, watu wa Nairobi tukichafua maji, Mheshimiwa, watu Machakos hampati maji the other side.
No. Tunapata lakini ikiwa chafu.
Yes.
But then it is a cycle. Mnachafua, mnatuletea, we grow food, we bring it back to you.
So you gain more than us?
No. A loss situation.
Okay. I asked Mheshimiwa Haro, how is Kenya doing?
Kenya is doing fine.
Right.
Kenya is doing fine. I think challenges are part of life. And life would be boring if there were no challenges.
Yes.
And every challenge is an opportunity for us to learn and improve. So Kenya is doing fine.
Kenya is doing fine.
Yes.
All right. Let me take you through the front page of the Daily Nation very quickly before we get into it. On the front page of the Daily Nation, forced NYS style drill for students. Forced NYS style drill for students. There is a mandatory 3 months community service after senior school, as well as 9 months upon completing university and college. That will be required of graduates before securing employment if education reforms by a presidential task force are implemented. That is on the front page of the Daily Nation. And it says that in the 80s, students underwent pre-university National Youth Service training. On the front page, Raila Ruto rule out power sharing ahead of crucial talks. Raila rule out power sharing ahead of crucial talks. President William Ruto sustains the onslaught on the opposition, declaring his government will speedily conclude negotiations with rivals so long as power sharing is not on the table. National Assembly Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah also insists on talks open to public at the Bomas of Kenya. That will begin tomorrow. Gentlemen, let me start with the Daily Nation. Forced NYS style drill for students, perhaps taking us back to the 80s. DG, what do you make of this?
I think it is a good thing. Sense of nationhood.
Yes.
Sense of citizenry, and culture of selflessness. I think that used to be there. We know the countries that have done the same. And if you look at the background of NYS, actually that was the intention. And I think even today, look at some jobs, like even drivers. Most of the organizations, if you go and at least you are a driver, but you have a background in NYS, you are likely to.
There's some sense of discipline that coupled with it.
Yes. It is something that in my view, it is overdue. But the issue of after university, I think it should be before. Before you get out of campus? Yes.
Okay.
Even before joining the university, I think you should do it once. You do it once at NYS, but once you continue with your studies at higher level, you continue and you go to job market.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it has to be part of the curriculum when you're in campus.
Yes, like it happens in the where NYS originated. Although the environment there is different, is hostile in nature. Almost every citizen is required by law, to go through paramilitary training, and that is in a country like Israel. But when you look at Israel and where it is situated, maybe their reasons could be different. But why I'm saying, giving that example, is today's CEOs around the world who have excelled very well, who have moved organizations from dying to prosperity. When you look at their background,
yes,
normally it has a discipline in paramilitary training. Yes.
Mheshimiwa Hore, I believe way back in the 80s, it was a norm. But times have changed. I mean, you go through the university 4 or 5 years doing medicine, what have you, and then you have a mandatory. Of course, this is part of the proposal in the presidential working committee. But how would it change the sense of discipline? I mean, discipline should start from home, not in school.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And actually, yeah, I agree with you, discipline starts from home. But if you look at the proposal and what it is intended to do, it is part of the continuation of that discipline that starts from home. And then you see, once a student has gone to the university, there's that sense that that student is a grown-up, and they are now very much independent from, home and what have you. And they meet. For example, the way our education system is designed, when you go to the university, you don't meet, for example, students from your home village like perhaps you would do when you are in high school.
Yeah.
You would meet students from all parts of the country. And that cross-pollination of, ideas and energies and then what have you, it is very, very important for the continuation of that discipline. You don't leave it just for parents or homes.
But I'm just wondering how it's going to be entrenched in the current society, because 80s up to now, changing that kind of mindset for people to go for the paramilitary training. I'm just imagining how it's going to change the mindset.
The 80s generation,
yes,
they are now not the target. The current generation is the target, because what we build on now would actually inform the generation that is coming. As you know, we have a very huge, bulging youth population in this country, and that situation I don't think is going to change in the near future. So what we are building is for the future, for posterity, so that this culture, even though it was abandoned after the 80s, the Presidential Working Party, and most of them are educationists and key stakeholders in the education sector in this country, they did an analysis and they realized this concept that we abandoned in the 80s is a very useful concept.
It can still work.
And can still work. And although it cannot, you cannot teach old dog tricks. You cannot, target those ones who are not in the system from 1980s to now. But for the youth who are now in the university, going forward, it's a culture we can build, we can initiate again and build on it. And I think the intention is good and the results will be perfect.
All right, okay. Very quickly, on the front page of the Standard newspaper, Ruto maintains tough conditions ahead of talks. Ruto maintains tough talks ahead of talks. President yesterday said that he is ready for dialogue with the opposition, but he won't be blackmailed using violence, and that power sharing is off the table, as his henchmen also ruled out talks on cost of living. Hard stance there. Of course, Raila Odinga also over the weekend said that he's not interested of power sharing. Let me just quote what he said. Opposition leader Raila Odinga has stated that he is not interested in a deal to join government he has branded quote-unquote illegitimate and unpopular, but insisted that the ruling coalition should not dictate the issues for discussion. His team has listed high cost of living and an audit of the last year's presidential election as part of their grievances. Here, two gentlemen going to the table but with their headlines. DG, what do you make of this?
First and foremost, 10 months ago, the country went to an election. There was a process until the government that is there now came to be. There was even a court process. There is that sense of legitimacy, sense of ownership, sense of entitlement in terms of I was elected to lead. But on the other side, we have also another coalition that almost because this election was almost to a call.
Yes.
The difference was only 200,000. That is not a small margin, but it is a small nationally.
Yeah.
They also have their own taking. They are feeling that the country could be heading in the wrong direction. They have also the following. They almost control half of the country. So in this kind of scenario, what I would propose is I've seen some what I would call hardline positions.
Yeah.
I think it is we have a country to look into, and they are good and they are bad, because if you go there, you go with your underlying position, you get your way, you win. If you go there, all of the two sides have delineants, and they don't agree, then we go back to where we are coming from, which is also a danger to the stability of the country.
Yes, remember we also have the first talk that collapsed.
Yes. So in this case, I think it is upon the principals now to maybe call their troops to order and maybe tell them, go to negotiations. When you are negotiating, it is a question of give and take.
And they say you
lose
clean hands.
and you gain.
Yeah.
It is not a question you go and you must win. That does not happen in negotiations.
But in this situation, who now dictates the agenda? Because both sides have their own agenda.
That question takes me back to why negotiations.
Okay.
Where are we coming from? Why are the two parties agreeing? Let's sit, let's talk, without anybody forcing them. So in this case, there are issues, and we have seen the two sides have their own list of issues.
Yes.
When they meet, I'm sure the two sides will merge and agree. These are now the issues on the table. Let's discuss. Let's come up with solutions that are going to be beneficial to the country.
Okay.
Yes.
Mheshimiwa Hore.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
In addition, I think first of all, let me say. What you hear politicians say in public and what they will say when they are on the discussion table are two different things. For example, before these bipartisan talks, after the first bipartisan talks failed, nobody in this country thought Raila and Ruto would meet behind the scenes and agree to have another bipartisan talks from the rhetorics that were on the public arena. So I come from a background of peace building and reconciliation, and I can assure you, the things, the bravado, the chest thumping that is happening out there in the public is meant for a different audience for different reasons. But the fact that the two parties have formed a team to have a discussion face to face, and they have set up the issues, to haggle around and agree which issues do we prioritize, which issues do we agree to discuss, and which issues we don't agree to discuss. Then definitely I can assure you we don't need to read too much into what Raila says in public and what President Ruto has said in public. But the pudding, what do they say? The sweetness of the food is in the pudding.
Yeah.
Once the bipartisan talks sit down and discuss, already people feel they are members of the bipartisan talks who are very.
And what makes you feel that this time around is going to be different? Because the first one failed completely. We didn't even see some of clear resolutions that came out with. It collapsed completely.
My friend, I have a lot of hope in this country, and this country has been very resilient. Kenya has proved the world wrong many times. When the whole world has thought that Kenya is on the precipice and is going to collapse, we've come out of the dust and done things that have surprised the world. And I can assure you that resilience and that belief in peace by Kenyans, and the fact that we've come a long journey since election. It's almost a year now, and we have been struggling with issues from election time to this date. And a lot of realization is sinking in on many Kenyans. There's the runaway cost of living. How do we bring it down? Because that's a matter, I think, regardless of what style each party is thinking of how to handle it, everybody is concerned about it.
Yes.
And therefore those issues and the fact that we have come a whole year after election and we are where we are will humble many of us to think very critically for Kenya, not for self.
Okay. A quick one. And finally, unless you want to add something, Mheshimiwa DJ?
Yes. After the collapse of the first, was it the first or second round of talks? They say this country is strategically placed. The international community views Kenya different from what Kenyans, they themselves feel their own country. This is the gateway to East Africa. This is the gateway to Great Lakes countries. Kenya is perceived to be the only country that is relatively stable compared to the rest of the nations around.
Right.
Now, we could speculate a lot of things, but one thing I know for sure, somebody somewhere above and out of this country might have played a certain role to ensure the two leaders, the two coalitions are brought back to the negotiating table. Because in the absence of that, then Kenya being important as it is, and I'm saying this from experience, I've attended serious forums, just like many Kenyan leaders out there. Kenya is highly rated because of its long-time stability. So allowing Kenya to have instability at this time and age, I think international community is highly concerned. And I think the only option that we have to protect our country, to promote our country, to promote good image of this country is to ensure we discuss, we talk, we continue talking, but ensure we don't sacrifice democratic principles that dictate that there was a winner, there was another one who was told to wait and try next time. We need to respect that because in my view, the economic challenges that we are now is as a result of this coalition business. I think that should not be entertained in Kenya.
Assume the two of you gentlemen sit part of the panel, the president is sitting there, and let's just assume that there's a new team also the other side, and you're also part of that team, some in a corner, away from us and public. What would you advise them? What would you tell them? Maybe a point or two.
One is to put the country's interest first.
Okay.
In politics, that is what we say in public, but in private it is opposite. I would wish this time for sincerity, for once. Let's put our country first. The issue we are seeing in public, people chest thumping, I don't think that is good. That is necessary for this country. Number two is we also respect one another. Because when as a national leader, you use a language that is not so much respectful, then that is what you are calling your followers to do. Now, the other side will also reciprocate the same. And their supporters will also take the cue. That is not the way to go.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's take a break. Mheshimiwa, when I come back, I'll give you a minute also to respond to that. If you're sitting on that table with the two gentlemen, what do you advise them? I mean, at the end of the day, we are all Kenyans. Let's take a break. We'll be right back with Mheshimiwa Abdul Harukore and Deputy Governor Francis Mwangangi. Stay with us.
She hasn't just taken this title, she's absolutely obliterated the whole field. 3:52.96.
It's a big stage, big names and big expectations, an immersive celebration of athleticism. More than 2,000 athletes from over 200 countries will compete in 49 events. Drawing inspiration from past memorable outings, Team Kenya is looking ahead for a remarkable feat in the forthcoming World Athletics Championship in Budapest, Hungary, in Central Europe. Witness the wonders from Budapest, Hungary on 19th through to the 27th of August, live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1. KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
오늘이 디데이입니다. 오늘이 디데이입니다.
나는 내가 다음 약속이 안 나오거든.
걱정 말아요. 내가 계속 지켜보고 있을 거니까.
그냥 잘못된 줄 알고. 정말 주의세요.
Tak, inaczej nie będzie. Jasne? Jasne.
There are times when reason becomes unclear in the heart and forbidden loves come to life. Isabel Montalban will now convert paradise into a land of the wild. She knows her heart is true to one of the Oteros, but is not quite sure who of the three it is. Now, their view will blind them well beyond the core of their blood bond. In these wild lands, it is the rule of heart that is supreme. In wild lands.
Welcome back. Mheshimiwa Harukore, it's your time to tell us. If you're sitting, the president is there, Raila Odinga or any part of Azimio is sitting there, what should you tell the two gentlemen?
I think I'll tell the two gentlemen that they were elected, or rather, they went into election. And that was is a representative democracy. They went into the election and told Kenyans they will represent their interest and nothing more. And it's time now. Both gentlemen are great Democrats, and both gentlemen are seasoned politicians who've been in politics in this country for long. And it's time that they now sat down and decided to talk on Kenya first and very seriously about issues that are affecting Kenyans, and stop thinking about what the voters out there would say, because the voters gave them the mandate to act for them, to represent them, and do what is good for them.
Okay.
So I will tell them, remove the veils of the parties, especially for the president. He's our president. He's a president of the nation. We are all his subjects, so to speak, and he needs to look at Kenya, and he's doing that right now. But he needs to do that, and Raila should also shed the politics around 2027, and what the losses that happened.
Has he talked about 2027 really?
He has talked about it. He has talked about it in so many ways.
Okay.
Not necessarily directly that.
Coined.
Yeah. So he needs to forget about the politics in 2027. Not forget really, but he should not consider the politics 2027 as we have to deal with these issues now.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And finally, Ruto moves to tighten grip on Mount Kenya tough. That is on the front page of the Star newspaper. Uhuru's influence appears to have crumbled with allies decamping to Kenya Kwanza. And now Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has declared President the official leader of Mount Kenya region. That is on the front page of the Star newspaper. And of course, the President is still in the mountain for an official tour, 5 days. And that is on that. So, Deputy Governor, let me quote you saying a few days ago, Kenyans need inclusivity in Ruto's government. That's according to you. And you said that inclusivity can be achieved when constitution is followed to the latter. No communities should be left out due to their political affiliations or convictions. And finally, you said that the leadership should start strategizing on how to win the 2027 election as early as now. Let me start with the issue of inclusivity. Part of the agenda of Azimio as they head to the talks. Some signs that it might start tomorrow. What's your take on this?
Inclusivity, according to the dictates of our constitution, they mean any national appointments should reflect the face of the country. At the county level, any appointments should reflect the face of that particular county. Now, my statement had also another meaning, that whenever, for example, we are doing development at county level, let not concentrate where the deputy governor or the minister or the chief officer comes from. Let's ensure fairness in distribution of projects. At national level, let's not do 100 million water project in Uasin Gishu and we do in Mandela a 1 billion project, or vice versa. Let's see fairness in all the distribution of the national cake so that we can grow this cake to fit each and every Kenyan. So in this case, all these things are in our constitution.
Yes.
And the third meaning that I had in mind was, and by the way, I was speaking in presence of the president. It's not like I was speaking somewhere else different. President came to open the first of its kind Open University of Kenya, which is headquartered at Konza Techno City. And that's where such sentiments were coming from. The third meaning was that we need to ensure no Kenyan feels that the government in place is not my government. We should feel because the president of the republic is the father of the nation, is the mother of the nation, is our father, is the father of everybody, including those opposing him.
Yes.
So in this case, it is upon the government to ensure the constitution is followed and followed fairly. Not sometimes we do this, and if it is done elsewhere, the reaction is different. So that fairness is what I was advocating for.
I'm also trying to look at it differently. When you talk about inclusivity, the president has already formed his government with appointments already done, and the government is moving. Mheshimiwa Hori, what would you read from that statement, inclusivity? Azimio, that is part of the agenda.
I think inclusivity, regardless of whose agenda it is a very important national discourse in this country. And it has been at the center of all the debates we have had in this country, including the clamor for the new constitution in 2010, because of the way things have happened in this country since independence, and some regions being very much ahead of other regions, and other regions being left behind for some time. And that's why the Constitution has also addressed the question of inclusivity specifically. It's even gone ahead and defined what marginalization is in some sense, because of the question around inclusivity. So inclusivity is an important issue, and we should not just look at it from the appointments, the way the DG has said. We should look at it holistically, not just from appointments in government, but including the national cake and how the national cake is distributed to all the regions. We are yet what I mean is inclusivity in the sense of Kenya is not as flattering as it should be. There are still many needs in many of these regions which are unaddressed, which require inclusivity to touch every part of this country. So there should be inclusivity in resource distribution. There should be inclusivity even in the dialogue we are having. There should be inclusivity in the appointments, not just in the national government at the national government level, even at the county level and under the grassroots. So inclusivity should be at the heart of the discussions that we should have.
I'm quite interested, DJ, because when you spoke about this in front of the president, you also dismissed claims by section politicians that Azimio leadership is pushing for a stake in President William Ruto's administration. Now, days later, on the front page again of the Daily Nation, the president says that Ruto and Raila rule out power sharing ahead of crucial talks. Are you a fortune teller? Were you seeing something that the two gentlemen are now saying, no, we don't need a handshake?
One, the Azimio coalition, where I belong, I've banned a statement. The Azimio leader, Raila Odinga, has said he does not want any piece of this
But how
government.
serious is this statement?
Now, he has not said it once, twice, or that. He has always, in every fora, all our leaders have been very clear on the attack as far as the Kenya Kwanza administration is concerned. So I think personally, when I say Kenya does not need another Nusmukate, another handshake or handshake, whichever way you look at it, is because of where it has taken us. And by the way, let me make it very clear. Agitation, picketing, demonstrating is not a bad thing. And by the way, I also heard something else. Conflicts are not bad. Were it not for conflict, this country could not be independent. Were it not for conflict, 2010 constitution could not be there. Were it not for conflict, maybe we could not be where we are. But what we are saying, we have come of the edge, and we are now exercising democracy. We should allow it to grow. We should allow it to thrive in a peaceful manner, following the constitution. If we are to, for example, to demonstrate, and these demonstrations, not necessarily even Azimio-led demonstrations, anybody, even those who elected Mheshimiwa, can feel maybe there's something he is not doing right. They have right to also tell him through demonstrations. We are saying, let them be peaceful. Let them be orderly, so that at the end of the day, you can be listened. Look, in France, they did a lot of demonstrations, which took months. Israel, the same. US, they do it on a daily basis.
In front of White House.
In fact, I was surprised. We went there, and I thought we were in their foreign what they call State Department. And as we were meeting up there, at Secretary's office, down there, people were demonstrating again.
But their level of demonstration is quite different from ours.
Here, you try to do that. You are tear gassed, you are done a lot of things, you are arrested. So I think somehow, as a country, we need to maybe learn a lot, be tolerant of each other, and move forward. This, if, by the way, Kenyans, if they are not watchful, an administration will come in, loot this country, mismanage this country, leave this country under a lot of debts, and they go away. And that explains, by the way, it explains, and this is a research we have done, that it is only majority of Kenyans, indigenous, who are too much wealthy in this country, are in one way or the other being either in top leadership or were working with those top in the leadership. It explains. So for us to do away with this, we need to expand the participation of Kenyans. We need to ensure as many Kenyans as possible are engaged. And to be engaged is to be aware, to know, to participate, to ensure whatever the country is implementing, whatever the administration, whether at county level or at national level, Kenyans have a say.
Each has a say. Yes. Mheshimiwa Hore, what do you say?
I think we don't need demonstration in this country anymore. I mean,
that would mean that we follow the constitution and put it under the table.
No, we don't follow the constitution, especially in the context we are now.
Okay.
The kind of demonstrations we have seen, we don't need it. We've come from a very difficult period, the corona impact and what have you, what's happening globally, you know, in Ukraine and what have you, and the impact it is having on our economies. And the type of demonstrations we are having in this country are different from, for example, the demonstrations we have they described up there. Right now, we have a very huge population of poor Kenyans who are struggling to come out of. And when you have demonstrations, for example, in Nairobi City, it basically means you shut down businesses, you shut down so many things for fear of those people who are spoilers and who are looting. So I think Kenyans should sit down and talk, and serious talks through the bipartisan talks, which are already going to start on Wednesday. And we need to agree on pertinent issues that are affecting Kenyans and how to go forward on them. But while demonstrations are necessary, they are constitutionally provided, but in the context we are now, and the way our economy is doing and the difficulties Kenyans are going through, I don't think it's the right time to have the kind of demonstrations we're having right now. And again, on the question of nusu mkate, with the experience we've had in the past with nusu mkate, I think I agree when you say, when leaders say we don't want nusu mkate, whether they mean it. I think at the end of it, everybody knows if you have a discussions the way we're having a discussions, and the question of inclusivity is part of the agenda, then definitely somebody says, where do I sit now after this?
That is my biggest question.
Piece we have agreed. So
from whichever source it's come from, DG, which you also quoted here, you also said it right in front of the president over the weekend. I mean, the way he's putting it, some people to be given some positions, either internationally or locally?
I urge Mheshimiwa to keenly listen to me. He seems to be getting what he wants to get from me. And he ends up in his discussion repeating exactly what I've said. Now, what I'm saying is whether they are given international jobs or otherwise, like we did in Andishek time. You remember something was secured somewhere through the government. That is not here nor there. Why am I saying this? As long as what Azimio asks, as long as what the Kenya Kwanza administration is having currently and is implementing, if they can be matched and it brings drastically the cost of living, I think that is the biggest concern of Kenyans. What personally I'm against, and I think many Kenyans will agree with me, considering what this has brought to this country, I think it is a direction that these negotiations should not lead to another major coalition thing. Let Kenya Kwanza continue, and let Azimio now focus on alternatives of what Kenya Kwanza are doing with clear demarcation and focus on the future elections. Because we want, if Kenya Kwanza are doing this, I would urge my coalition, we sit down, we come up with a more better alternative. And tell Kenyans, these ones, they are doing 1, 2, 3. Hours we are proposing this, and ahead of the next election, which is not far away, by the way. We did the election the other day. Now it's almost a year over.
1 year is over.
Okay, 1 year is over. So in this case, I think that kind of constructive criticism, constructive engagement is what maybe we might require as a country. In my view, I think I agree with the honorable member that currently the kind of destructive demonstrations we have seen across this country, we don't need them now. But my statement is very clear that advanced societies where countries practice democracy, picketing, demonstrations, peaceful ones, orderly ones, are order of the day. Because of different reasons. Yes, you know, people can even, it is not necessarily we demonstrate against leaders. We can also demonstrate against policies that we feel they are oppressive. Like, for example, if Kenyans were aware of 1965 policy that ensured where government is collecting more taxes, they put more into that particular region. If people knew then that was a way of dividing this country. This was a way of alienating parts of this country. People should have demonstrated then and against that kind of policy. And such a policy is not bad. So in this case, such a policy is bad for the country. So people can demonstrate to have it changed. So what I'm saying is peaceful picketing, peaceful demonstrations are not bad at all. Yes.
We just have to get it. But
yes,
Mheshimiwa Hore, we are 13 years after the promulgation of the new constitution, which again, if you look at it, we've made some amazing strides as a nation. I mean, nations copy-paste us, benchmarking on our constitution, some of the tenets of the constitution as it is. But why do you think the constitution itself has not cured some of these things that you are facing currently? The demonstration, the winner takes it all, you know, it was supposed to cure that, either the parliamentary way or the presidential system. But why has it not cured some of these things? Why has the constitution not stopped us from going to the trenches on some of these clauses they are in?
I think, thank you, that's a good question. The constitution, we have, as you have rightly put it,
quite progressive.
We have a very progressive constitution, a very good constitution. The only problem with our constitution, as it has always been from the word go, has been implementation. Those people mandated to do the implementation of different components of that constitution have always failed us. And I think it's time we did a lot of, I don't even want to call it awareness, but we need to, you know,
13 years down the line.
Remind each other very, very carefully that this constitution requires implementation. And then the nature of our politics, you know, it looks like we have an electoral cycle which once we have come out of election, the campaigns for the next election begins, and then a lot of good things that would have been done by those who are in power are drawn in those noises and what have you, because once the opposition have ratcheted the politics for the next election, the government in power is also forced into, like, for example, see from the visit the president is doing in central Kenya. If you ask me, now that the Azimio have been on the streets demonstrating, it's another form of politicking for 2027, because the issues they are raising in those demonstrations, you know, the president now is addressing those issues out there.
Yes.
You see? And this is the kind of politics we have in this country, which definitely is making the good parts of the constitution suffer. But we have a very good constitution. We just need a proper implementation of that constitution, and we need our systems, our systems, our what do I call it? The systems that have been put in place to implement the constitution and safeguard some of the rights in the constitutions, whether it's inclusivity, whether it's dealing with the issues of marginalization, whether it's dealing with the issues of national cohesion. We have very good national values in that constitution. We have very good regulations in there that guide politicians and those in the executive to behave the way they're supposed to behave, but we are not behaving. The question of corruption, the question of favoritism, the question of non-inclusive, looking at issues. So all of these issues actually are the ones which are making our constitution not address some of the issues we're addressing.
Yeah.
And some people still feel, when you're talking about constitution and then you put an individual at the center stage. For example, when we started clamoring for constitution and when we went into the multi-party democracy, when we did the first elections, people thought, when we were saying yote yawezekana bila Moi, we thought once Moi goes, life will be rosy for Kenyans.
All our problems are resolved.
All our problems will be. So we thought by concentrating all our thoughts and efforts on an individual and his policy, all our problems will go away. And although we have enacted the constitution, still the nature of our political psyche is that we individualize issues and agendas. That's why you'll see Raila attracting so many people, when he's driving his whatever, and then when the president comes out, you can see when he was in the Central, the love for that man is crazy, and we need to stop, equating an individual to a constitution. And look at the constitution and the institutions and the tenets within that constitution and what needs to be done as a country, instead of like it was said back then, kama baba amesoma,
kila kitu iko sawa. I'm quite interested because when you look at even the separation of powers, the county governments have a clear distinction, their roles away from the national executive, national government, and that's that. But as we speak, there is no clear, some would argue that now who is ruling? We have the government in power and the opposition. And as you also answer to that, the constitution was supposed to cure that there's a clear demarcation and a clear pathway between the opposition and the national the ruling government. In this case, it's now the minority side. But why has it not cured that?
Maybe, this is Africa. Kenya is a developing country. Now, we went somewhere in South Africa, we went somewhere in United States of America, which is practicing federalism, got their constitution and a little bit of South Africa, and then we merged them together. And that is what came of the 2010 constitution. Now, establishment of the county governments. The Kenya, first and before I go to county governments, Kenya remains a unitary state with a president and the deputy president at the top. Executive remains, national parliament, both Senate and National Assembly remains, legislature that is, and we have the judiciary. When you go lower at the county level, you have only executive and the regional assembly, the county assembly. Now, that being the case, you look at the mandates. The mandates is what separates the two levels of government. Now, the mandate,
and they should also apply to the minority or the opposition to the ruling coalition.
Yes, both at national level and at county level. Yes. But at the national level, you have two chambers of the assembly. You have the Senate and you have the National Assembly. At the county level, you just have one county assembly, but with the minority and the majority. Now, in this case, first and foremost, you talked of implementation of the 2010 constitution. Truly, it has been implemented. Actually, over 3/4 of the constitution has been implemented. But there has been some losses here and there. I'm sure if there will be, later in our discussion, there is a question of devolution, I will armor it so well, what I'm about to say. Implementing devolution vis-a-vis the national government. I think naturally, when you talk of change, you expect resistance. And that is what has been tempting the national government. And I will explain how. It is true, Kenya now is practicing devolution. We have counties and we have national government. But national government has devolved functions, and a lot of funds has remained to the central government. Like, I will give an example. Look at the following ministries and look at what has gone to the counties.
Yes.
Look at the Minister of Agriculture. Look at the Minister of Water and Irrigation. Look at the Ministry of Health. These ministries, and even the Minister of Roads, Transport, all these ministries, their budget is almost double what is going to counties. Yet those functions were devolved. Part of Minister of Roads is with all the highways.
Yes.
The highways are with the national government.
Right.
But when you look at the Kera roads, almost all of them, over 90%, are with the counties. Yet the budget is still with the national government.
Okay.
So this temptation to hoard at the center is what is maybe is making this country not to prosper the way it should, not to grow as it is expected. Why? Because when you have a centralized resources, talk of water, you tell the Minister of Water, please now the table to Kenyans where you have done projects and for how much. You'll find most likely those well-connected regions, not everywhere in this country. But if you devolve these resources, no matter how small the water projects will be, it will be almost every part of this country. And that is how you grow the country.
Let me get this from Mheshimiwa Hore. I mean, as we wind up, most of the time they were running out of time. Why now it's gone? I mean, oh my goodness. When you look at devolution, and the Deputy Governor is here, 1 year down the line or 10 years after the Constitution, maybe quickly, are we getting it right in terms of devolution? Way back in Mandera, the fruits.
Yeah, of course, we're getting it right. I am a very positive Kenyan. We're getting it right because if you look at the intention was to reduce executive power, the intention was to guarantee some certain rights to minorities and marginalized groups, and also to devolve some authority to the. Most of these things have happened, but the way the DG put it correctly, we also have some misses.
Yes.
The biggest problem with devolution is corruption. Because the runaway corruption that we were crying about at the national level, you know, when we were in Mandera before devolution, we were telling our people, you know, when they cry about lack of roads, lack of water, lack of schools, lack of what, we were telling them, you know, the money is being stolen at the national level there, you know, and when you are from the region where I come from, tunasema, uko Kenya, ndio pesa zinapotelea. But now, that corruption has been devolved to the counties, and a lot of, you know, bad things have happened in terms of corruption devolved in the counties. But the little that has gone directly to the people has been life changing. Like in Mandera, for example, we expected 10 years after devolution, we would see our roads tarmacked all the way to Garissa, because that is where, in terms of our region, that's where the tarmac road ends, you know, and that's where Kenya begins for us. So that is one of the misses that we have had, but the government now has a big plan funded by World Bank to do the Great North Highway, which covers all the way to Mandera. We hope that will be realized during this period.
I'm told that we have to stop there because we also have to cross over to the Kiswahili service. But DG, I promise to call you back next week so that we discuss matters devolution, because devolution conference starts next week on 15th, and this will be happening in Gishu. I want us to take a look at it holistically. What are some of the hits and misses of devolution 10 years on, where we should fix some of the loose ends, and probably you know, people like Mandera should also benefit even more. Nairobi is also benefiting from devolution. How about we say, I'm leaving as Victor, I'm going to work in Mandera, and I feel at home. That's it. So, gentlemen, we have to stop there. 1 hour is gone, just when you're having enough time before you could even start. Thank you so much. Deputy Governor, Machakos County, please say hi to the governor. Say hi that tunamtarajia hapa. Asante sana. Abdul Harukori, member of Bandera South, asante sana for coming to the show, and even you as a viewer, thank you so much for watching. We are taking a break, but when we come back, Zinga will be having a discussion about utafiti kwa sera za afya. Dora Manya will be having a discussion with Francis Kundu, who is a Senior Manager, Demography Kenya KNBS, as well as Stanley Wamboa, Head of Gender Statistics, Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. Asante sana for watching. Have a good morning. I'm Victor Olo. Thank you so much.
Coming soon on KBC. What's in Your Kitchen? A show that celebrates Kenyan and African dishes.
Rusha. Wait. Be careful.
Yes, because I've seen some fire jump there.
That is called flambeing. Flambeing.
So tukiona moto tujue ni flambeing. Crushed methi seeds. Kila siku soma kitu mpya. Mchele yetu iko sawa. Hii iko sawa. Tumalize.
Sasa ni kwenda tukule.
Napima.
Hii ni chakula mzuri sana.
Nzito kabisa. Salivate this delicious meal on your screen while taking notes for the recipe. Don't miss What's in Your Kitchen, coming soon on KBC.
Ningekuwa wewe ningehesabu masaa ya pumzi ndio bakia nao hapa ulimwenguni.
Hapa tushamea. Mizizi shakita.
Wewe support vile anavyonifanya.
Nakwambia angalia
hizi kelele ndo mimi sitaki.
Mbona ushirikina huu? Kate amerudi.
Maranga Wagatonye's pupil, H.M. Karaoke, can be considered the last of the great accordion players. Having recorded cover songs written by those who came before, he himself is famous for the hit Mayai or Eggs.
Kupatikana ama kuonekana ukiwa na gitaa, watu walikuwa wanafikiria wewe ni mkora.
I love English country music. I love jazz. I love reggae. But when I want to feel at home, it has to be popular music.
Live from Broadcasting House, Nairobi, Kenya. This is KBC English Service.
Welcome to Beat Time Show, the very best of the 80s and 90s. Be John Karani, JK.
Timeless music hits across the decades.
This is the place to be after you've had a tough day. Join the Sundowner group on Facebook.
Just watch.
The sound of KBC English Service.
I'm your host Caroline Wangishi, Karo Gatata Moshero.
My name is Geoffrey Mongai B.
News, information and entertainment. KBC English Service, Kenya's official national radio.
njia sawa ukifuatilia matangazo yetu moja kwa moja kupitia redio na vile vile televisheni, na ilivyo ada kila siku na vile vile KBC ya kwamba tutakuwa tunajadili masuala ya siasa, lakini leo tunafanya mambo tofauti. Tutakuwa tunaangazia masuala ya afya na takwimu mbalimbali kama zilivyoweza kutolewa na shirika la takwimu hapa nchini. Kwa hivyo nakukaribisha tukaweze kusonga kwa pamoja. #Zinga @Radio Taifa FM @KBC Channel 1 @Mwamkondo @Dora Manya. Karibu zaidi. Na hivi majuzi shirika la kitaifa la takwimu hapa nchini Kenya, yani Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, ilifanya utafiti wa masuala ya idadi ya watu wa afya. Hii ni kwa minajili ya kupanga mikakati ya maendeleo ya taifa na vile vile usambazaji wa huduma muhimu kama vile ugavi wa rasilimali na mambo mengine muhimu ambayo yanahusiana na kuongezeka kwa idadi ya watu hapa nchini. Na hili lilikuwa zoezi la 7 tangu mwaka 1989. Utafiti huu wa mwaka 2022 ulichukua habari za idadi ya watu na hali yao ya kiafya. Masuala kadhaa yaliweza kuangaziwa kama vile uzazi, vifo vya mapema miongoni mwa watoto, virusi vya HIV, masuala ya kijinsia na kadhalika. Lakini je, utafiti huu utasaidia vipi katika kuweka mikakati ya kuinua hali ya kiafya hapa nchini Kenya? Hii leo kwenye studio tunao maafisa kutoka shirika la takwimu Kenya National Bureau of Statistics ili kufafanua zaidi yaliyomo kwenye ripoti hiyo. Kwanza tunaye bwana Stanley Wambua ambaye ni mkuu wa kitengo cha takwimu za jinsia katika KNBS, na vile vile tunaye bwana Francis Kundu ambaye ni meneja wa masuala ya idadi ya watu Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. Karibu msikilizaji. Wageni wangu, karibuni kwenye studio.
Asante sana.
Uko salama bwana Stanley?
Niko salama kabisa, nashukuru.
Okay, asante sana. Najua wewe utakuwa unazungumzia sana masuala ya takwimu za jinsia, tuweze kuelewa inahusiana na nini, na asante sana pia bwana Francis Kundu kuweza kufika.
Asante.
Labda kwa jumla tu, sijui nani anataka kwanza kuzungumzia hili wakati ambapo mnafanya tafiti, kizingatiwa kwamba tangu mwaka 1989 mmekuwa mkifanya tafiti, na huu ni utafiti nafikiri wa 7 ambao mmefanya. Umuhimu wa utafiti kama huu katika nchi ya Kenya ni gani?
Pengine ningependa kusema kwamba utafiti huu ni muhimu sana kwa Kenya, kwa sababu tunajua kwamba kuna jitihada mbalimbali ambazo serikali inafanya ili kuweza kuboresha maisha ya wananchi. Kwa hivyo wakati ambapo tunafanya utafiti huu, inatusaidia kuweza kuona zile sera ambazo tumeweka, zile programs ambazo tumeweka, je, zimefaulu? Na tunapopata matokeo kutoka kwa utafiti kama huu, pia inatusaidia kupanga katika siku za usoni ni mambo gani ambayo tunapaswa kubadilisha ili tuweze kuboresha maisha ya watu.
Okay, bwana Stanley, unataka kusema jambo?
Niongezee tu kwamba takwimu ni mwanga ambao unaangazia mambo yetu ya mpango. Kwa hivyo kufanya mipango bila takwimu ni kama kutembea tu kwa kufua na giza. Kwa hivyo umuhimu wake ndio hapo ndio tunaweka uzito. Yes.
Napenda sana, unajua moja wapo kitu ambacho kilikuwa kwa hii ripoti inahusu wanawake sana ambao walikuwa wanachangamkia kwamba ni sawa kwa mwanamke kuchapwa kwa sababu fulani, kama akichelewa nyumbani, akikosa kupika vizuri, akikunyima haki zako za ndoa na kadhalika. Ni ripoti ambayo ina mambo mengi. Nafikiri siku nyingine labda tutaweza kuangazia pia hayo. Lakini hebu tuangalie jambo hili, labda katika ripoti hii ni jambo lipi ambalo haswa mliona lilikuwa kuu ambalo lilikuwa linafaa kuzingatiwa ijapo katika masuala ya idadi ya watu na afya zao?
Pengine jambo moja kuu ambao tuliweza kupata tulipofanya utafiti huu ni kwamba wanawake sasa wameanza kupata watoto wachache zaidi. Tulipokuwa katika miaka za 80, wanawake katika Kenya walikuwa wanapata kwa wastani watoto 7. Lakini kwa wakati huu imefika karibu watoto 3. Na jambo hili ni muhimu sana kwa sababu inamaanisha kwamba ile kasi ambapo idadi ya watu inaongezeka katika nchi ya Kenya imeweza kuanza kupungua. Kwa hivyo ni jambo mzuri, inamaanisha kwamba pengine ile pressure ambayo idadi ya watu inaleta katika zile resources, rasilimali ambazo tunazo katika nchi sasa imeanza kupungua. Kwa hivyo sisi tunaona hilo ni jambo nzuri sana.
Kwa hivyo watu kuanza kupunguza idadi ya watoto ni jambo nzuri?
Ni jambo nzuri, ni kwa sababu ya hii ya kwamba tunajua rasilimali ambazo tunazo si nyingi sana, na pia uchumi wetu hauongezeki kwa kiwango kikubwa sana, inaongezeka pole kwa pole. Kwa hivyo ikiwa tutaweza kupata watoto ambao ni wachache, inamaanisha kwamba hatutakuwa tunapata watoto wengi zaidi kushinda jinsi ambavyo uchumi wetu unakuwa. Kwa hivyo jambo hilo itaweza kusaidia tuweze kufanya miradi ya maendeleo kulingana na zile rasilimali tunazo.
Kuna mataifa ambayo watu wanatiwa moyo hata kuweza kuongeza watoto hapa. Tunaelezewa kwamba ni jambo zuri kwamba kina mama kupunguza watoto. Sijui semaje.
Ni kweli, lakini sana hizo takwimu ni za mataifa ambayo yameendelea na maweza kujithibiti kwa nyanja za tuseme upande wa ajira na sekta nyingi. Viashiria vya sekta nyingi za maendeleo utakuta kwamba viashiria zao, yani indicators zao ziko nzuri, hivyo kwamba idadi ama ongezeko la watu linakuwa linaenda sambamba na vifo, ile tunasema replacement level. Kwa hivyo unakuta kwamba kule kuongezeka kwa watu akusumbui. Kwa hivyo ukifanya planning yako unaweza hata kuikadiria hata miaka 10 pasipo na kwamba unakosea, kwa sababu idadi ya watu imekuwa stable, yani iko imara. Kwa hivyo unakuta kwamba hiyo ni jambo lingine pengine tunaweza kuongezea hapo, kwamba hapa Kenya bado yetu bado iko juu, haijafikia hiyo level. Kwa hivyo ndio unaona kuna hizo tofauti ukiangalia katika uso wa dunia yote, hatuko katika the same level, hatuko katika ngazi moja. Kwa hivyo huko Afrika nao kule ambapo idadi ya watu inaongezeka, unaona viashiria vya upande wa umaskini nao pia viko juu. Sasa unashindwa, utakuwa na watoto 7 ambao wanakushinda hata kulisha, ama mtajipanga mume na mke mkuwe na watoto idadi ambayo nyinyi mwenyewe mnaweza kuwalisha, mnaweza kuwadhibiti katika yale mahitaji yao.
Kwa hivyo sababu kuu ni kama unasema ni hali ya uchumi na ugumu wa maisha ndio unapelekea kina mama kwa kupunguza idadi ya watoto.
Huenda jambo hilo linachangia, kwa sababu ukiona leo ukiwa na watoto 7 utawalisha namna gani? Utawaelimisha namna gani? Inakuwa ngumu. Kwa sababu katika utafiti wetu tuliweza kupata kwamba tulipouliza akina mama wanawake, unaona ni idadi gani ya watoto ambao ni nzuri, ambao ungetaka kupata ikiwa inawezekana, wengi walisema kwa wastani ni watoto 4. Lakini sasa tunaona ya kwamba kwa ukweli wanapata watoto 3. Kwa hivyo inaonyesha ya kwamba hata ingawa wanataka watoto 4, wameona hali ni ngumu. Na kwa hivyo wanaamua kwamba wacha sasa tuweze kupunguza idadi ya watoto ambao tunao. Alafu pia uliweza kuzungumzia mataifa ambayo yameendelea. Kama kwa mfano Uchina, idadi ya watu huko inaongezeka kwa asili 1 kila mwaka, lakini uchumi ya nchi hiyo inaongezeka kwa karibu 10% kila mwaka. Lakini ukiangalia Kenya, idadi ya watu inaongezeka kwa 2.3 kila mwaka, na uchumi wetu mara ya mwisho nafikiria mwaka huu tuliweza kutangaziwa, I think iligrow na karibu 5% kila mwaka. Kwa hivyo unaona hiyo tofauti. Uchumi wa Uchina inakuwa kwa kasi, lakini idadi ya watu haiongezeki kwa kasi vile. Lakini kwetu uchumi haiongezeki kwa kasi sana, lakini idadi ya watu pia tunaongezeka kwa kasi zaidi ukilinganisha na Uchina na nchi zingine kama hizo.
Tusalie hapo katika masuala ya afya, maana katika pia huu utafiti mliangazia masuala ya kupanga uzazi, kulikuwa na masuala ya vifo vya mapema pia kwa watoto, afya kina mama na vile vile watoto wachanga, ugonjwa wa HIV. Katika masuala haya ambayo nimegusia, labda kwa ufupi tu, takwimu zenu zilikuwa zinaonyesha vipi kuhusiana mambo ambayo nimeyataja pale?
Nilikuwa nataka niseme kitu tofauti kidogo, alafu Francis ataangazia hilo. Kutoka sekta yetu ya jinsia, jukumu la kupata watoto si la mama peke yake. Hayo maamuzi tunayaangalia ni baina ya baba na mama, mjadiliane, mkubaliane, hapa tupate watoto kiasi. Hiyo ikiponyoka itaanza kuwa ni kama adhabu. Mama anapata watoto zaidi kuliko vile angependa, ama baba pengine anaona mama amemzalia watoto kidogo kuliko vile angependa, na hiyo inaweza pia kuwa ni chanzo cha mzozo kinachochangia baadhi ya dhuluma za kijinsia. Kwa hivyo tungependa sana kutia sokoni maamuzi ya familia, wote wahusike. Hapo baadaye nitagusia kidogo kuhusu maamuzi muhimu baina ya familia, baina ya mwanamke kibinafsi, baina ya mwanaume kibinafsi, na baina ya wote pamoja. Tutaangazia
hapo kwa kupanga uzazi na haya maamuzi ambayo ni muhimu kidogo. Bwana Francis, unasemaje kuhusu haya masuala upangaji uzazi, vifo vya mapema, masuala ya HIV ambayo yaliangaziwa katika ile ripoti?
Pengine jambo moja ambalo ningependa kutaja ambalo tuliweza kuona ni nzuri sana kupitia ripoti hii ni kwamba wanawake wajawazito siku hizi wengi wanafika katika hospitali ili kuweza kuangaliwa ikiwa wako sawa, ikiwa ile mimba inaendelea vizuri. Kutokana na utafiti ambao tuliweza kufanya, tulipata ni karibu wote, kwa sababu ilikuwa ni 98% ambao wanafika katika vituo vya afya, wanaweza kuchunguzwa na pia wanaweza kuambiwa kwamba ile mimba inaendelea vizuri. Pia jambo lingine ambalo tuliweza kuona ni kwamba wakati huu watoto wengi wanazaliwa katika hospitali pahali ambapo tunajua kuna mhudumu wa afya. Kwa hivyo hii ni jambo nzuri ambalo tunaweza kuona, kwa sababu kati ya watoto 10 ambao wanazaliwa leo, 9 wanazaliwa palipo na mhudumu wa afya. Kwa hivyo hiyo inachangia afya ya watoto, inachangia afya ya kina mama, na hiyo ni jambo nzuri sana. Kwa sababu wakati wa mwisho ambapo tulifanya utafiti huu ni mwaka wa 2014. Wakati huo tulipata ya kwamba ilikuwa ni karibu 66% ndio walikuwa wanazaliwa katika hospitali. Kwa hivyo hii ni jambo nzuri ambayo tumeweza kuona wakati huu.
Kwa kina mama ambao wanakutizama, wazazi kwa ujumla, labda umuhimu wa mama kujifungua katika kituo cha afya na kwa ni gani tofauti na labda kujifungulia pale nyumbani?
Ukienda katika kituo cha afya wakati ambapo una mimba, inamaanisha kwamba utaweza kuchunguzwa, na kama kuna jambo ambalo linahitaji kuweza kushughulikiwa, basi yule mama ataweza kushughulikiwa vizuri. Alafu inapofika wakati wa kujifungua, kuna wale wahudumu wa afya wataweza kushughulikia yule mama, na ikiwa pengine kuna jambo la dharura linaweza kutokea, basi wale wahudumu wa afya wataweza kusaidia hapo hapo. Ikiwa ni hospitali pengine ya kiwango cha chini na hawezi kushughulika na hali hiyo, wataweza pengine kufanya referral, yule mama atolewe pale apelekwe kwa hospitali nyingine ambayo inaezana na hali hiyo. Kwa hivyo ni vizuri akina mama kuweza kwenda katika hospitali kujifungua.
Na sijui kama katika tafiti zenu pia kama zipo changamoto ambazo mnaangazia, kwa mfano labda kuna akina mama katika sehemu ambazo za mashinani kupata huduma za afya ama mahali pa kwenda kujifungulia labda uko mbali. Changamoto kama hizo mnaziangazia, na labda kuna mapendekezo ambayo mnatoa?
Kuna changamoto kama hizo ziko, kwa sababu katika hizi takwimu ambazo tuliweza kupata imeonyesha katika kaunti zingine unapata ya kwamba akina mama hawezi kufikia zile vituo vya afya kwa urahisi. Kwa hivyo katika kaunti kama hizo utapata pengine idadi ya kina mama ambao wanazalia nyumbani iko juu zaidi, na pia katika kaunti hizo utaweza kuona ya kwamba watoto ambao wanakufa pengine katika mwezi wao wa kwanza wa maisha ama wakati wa kuzaliwa pia iko juu. Kwa hivyo tunaangazia jambo hilo, alafu baadaye mwaka huu tutaweza kwenda katika hizo kaunti na kuweza kuambia ile utafiti ambayo tulifanya, hii ndio matokeo ambayo tulipata. Pengine katika zile kaunti ambapo pengine watoto wengi wanazaliwa wakiwa nyumbani, tunaonyesha kwamba hali iko namna hii, watoto katika kaunti hii wanakufa kwa kiwango hii. Ni nini ambao mnaweza kufanya ili muweze kusaidia watoto hawa wasikufe, na pia afya ya kina mama iwe bora zaidi? Nakumbuka tulipofanya utafiti wa mwaka wa 2004 tuliweza kuangazia hiyo katika kaunti nyingi, na tunaona ya kwamba hizo kaunti zimeweza kufanya investments nyingi katika sekta ya afya kujaribu kusaidia kina mama, na wakati huu tunaona ya kwamba zile vifo vya watoto na kina mama zimeweza kupungua, lakini bado kuna kazi ya kufanywa.
Turudi kwako Bwana Stanley Wambua, ukiwa kama mkuu wa kitengo cha takwimu za jinsia pale Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, tulikuwa tumeanza kugusia masuala ya upangaji uzazi ambayo mahali ambapo pia mlikuwa mmeangazia kwa kina. Mligundua nini na labda mkapendekeza vipi kuhusiana na masuala ya upangaji uzazi?
Kwa ujumla upangaji wa uzazi uko na athari zake kwa mwanamke na pia faida zake. Kwa mfano, katika kupanga uzazi, pendekezo letu kutoka sekta ya jinsia ni baba na mama wazungumziane na wakubaliane. Kwa mfano, tutakuwa na watoto wangapi? Right? Hayo mengine atakuwa ni wavulana ama ni wasichana, hayo tuachie Mwenyezi Mungu. Sasa mtoto ni mtoto. Hapo ndio tunaweka standard ya value ya thamani. Binadamu ni binadamu. Akiwa wa kike, akiwa wa kiume, usawa. Kwa hivyo utapata kwamba okay, mimi si mwanamke lakini pia mimi ni mtafiti. Kwa hivyo naweza kuangalia na kuona na kuelewa. Kipata watoto wengi, kwa sababu ya mama yuko na majukumu zaidi ya kuchunga watoto, kwanza ya kunyonyesha kila kitu, inamweka chini sana. Kwa hivyo ile spacing inakuwa ni muhimu. Na ni nini ina connect hiyo spacing na mambo ya jinsia? Ni yale maamuzi. Utapata ujauzito lini? Utaspace watoto namna gani? Je, kwa mfano ukipata mtoto mwaka huu, ngoje miaka 5. Huo uwezo huko. Mambo ya contraception na mbinu za kuzuia mimba zinaingilia hapo. Kwa hivyo tunaangazia sana hayo maamuzi, na tuliuliza mambo ya maamuzi kuhusu mambo ya afya, na tukaona ya kwamba zaidi ya nusu kidogo wanawake ambao wako katika ndoa wanafanya maamuzi sasa, aidha kivyao ama pamoja na waume zao. Na hiyo ni jambo la kushabikiwa sana, kwa sababu tayari shapita nusu. Kwa hivyo haya mambo, na pia sisi wa Kenya tukifanya mambo yetu, tusitarajie kupanda asubuhi na unavuna adhuhuri. Pole pole tutafika. Sasa kama sasa hilo swala nimesema ya maamuzi, si maamuzi ya uzazi peke yake, pia mambo mengine pale katika familia. Kwa hivyo vile viashiria, some of the viashiria, vile indicators kama hiyo nimesema, tayari shapita zaidi ya nusu, 55%. Yani wanawake 55 kati ya 100 wanasema tunafanya maamuzi sisi wenyewe ama kushirikiana na waume zetu. Ni jambo tunashabikia. Pengine ile round inakuja itafika 70. Na tungependa iendelee mpaka ifike 100 juu ya 100.
Papo hapo, kwa sababu unashughulikia masuala ya jinsia, wanaume wachukua vipi masuala ya upangaji uzazi? Maana ukiangalia Kenya pia kuna mambo ya tamaduni, kuna zile tunasema asubi za kiume, wengine wanaamini kwamba mambo ya upangaji uzazi ni mambo ya mama, na hapo umesema maamuzi inafaa kufanywa na wote wawili kwa pamoja. Sijui wanaume wanasemaje kuhusu swala hili?
Wanaume pia wako na changamoto zao, kwa vile umesema, kwa sababu ya itikadi zetu, kwa sababu ya culture zetu. Wengine hawasemi, lakini wanafanya nini? Wanajifanyia mbinu ya kufanya nini? Ya kujibu kivyao, kisiri, yanafanyika. Lakini unaona kwamba ukiangalia sana sana ile inakuwa tunaiweka uzito, ni kwa sababu mwanamke ndio anaathiriwa zaidi kama hakuna mpango wa uzazi. Mwanaume kuzalisha ni kazi kidogo. Pakija yale mambo mengine ambao tuseme kama gharama za kulea familia ambao Bwana Francis Kundu aliangazia, utakuta bado mama anafanya nini? Anachangia. Ikifika hiyo bado ni watu wawili. Lakini ukija mambo ya afya katika uzazi inabana mama sana zaidi. Kwa hivyo wanaume kidogo wako pale. Ni kweli sisi wanaume tusaingi tunasikia baridi. Tuliuliza swali ya kuhusu ile mchanganyiko, composition ya sexes ya watoto. So naangalia pale kama wote ni wasichana, wote wazazi wote wawili wanakuwa kidogo wako hivi. Lakini pia hiyo ni area ambayo tunaendelea kuzungumza na kusambaza hizi habari kwamba tukiuza msimamo wa kwamba mtoto ni mtoto. Awe wa kiume, awe wa kike. Mtoto ni mtoto. Kwa hivyo isilete pressure.
Bwana Kundu, sijui ungesemaje kuhusu masuala ya kupanga uzazi, na sana sana hapo kwa wanaume? Japo inaathiri sana mwanamke mambo ya kupanga uzazi, lakini kwa wanaume labda sijui ito ni upi?
Nafikiria kwa wanaume wakati huu ni kama wameanza kukubali mambo hayo. Hata ingawa bado wanaona ya kwamba mambo ya kupanga uzazi, kazi nyingi iko kwa wanawake. Kwa hivyo tunaona kwamba wanaume wanahusika, kwa sababu tuliweza kuuliza akina mama ambao wameolewa, ni nani ambao anahusika katika kutoa maamuzi ikiwa mtatumia mpango wa uzazi ama la. Na waliweza kuonyesha kwamba wengi wao wanashirikiana na waume zao ili kuweza kutoa maamuzi hayo. Kwa hivyo tunaona ya kwamba wanaume ni kama wameanza kukubali mambo hayo, lakini sana sana wanaona ya kwamba kazi nyingi iko kwa upande wa wanawake. Jambo lingine ambalo ningependa kutaja pia, katika takwimu ambazo tuliweza kupata, tuliona ya kwamba wanawake 6 kati ya 10 ambao wameolewa wanatumia mbinu za kupanga uzazi, na tukaona hiyo ni jambo nzuri ya kwamba wengi zaidi wanatumia. Lakini kuna jambo lingine ambalo tulipata na tukaona ya kwamba hapa lazima tufanyie kazi pia. Tulipata kati ya wanawake 10 ambao wameolewa, kuna mmoja ambaye hatumii mbinu za kupanga uzazi. Lakini hao wanawake pia hawataki kupata watoto wakati huu, na hawataki kupata watoto pengine katika siku zijazo, lakini hawatumii mbinu yoyote ya kupanga uzazi. Na kwa hivyo kutokana na takwimu zetu tuliweza kupata ya kwamba wale watoto ambao walizaliwa katika zile miaka 3 kabla ya utafiti wetu mwaka jana, tulipata ya kwamba karibu watoto 4 kati ya 10 hawakuwa wamepangiwa. Mwanamke tu alijikuta ya kwamba yuko na mimba, mtoto ndio huyo anakuja na hakuwa amepangia. Pengine alikuwa amekusudia, wacha ningoje miaka 2 ndio nipate mtoto mwingine. Ama kuna wale wengine ambao walikuwa wamesema mimi nina watoto wa kutosha, sitaki watoto wengine. Lakini sasa mimba ndio hii imeweza kuja. Kwa hivyo hapo ndio tuliona ya kwamba bado tuko na kazi ya kufanya ili kusaidia hawa wanawake ambao pengine hawataki kupata watoto wakati huu ama hawataki kupata watoto katika siku zijazo, waweze kutumia mbinu ambazo zinawafaa ili wasijikute katika hali hiyo. Kwa sababu hiyo inamaanisha ya kwamba katika wale watoto wote ambao walizaliwa hiyo miaka 3, karibu 37% hawakuwa wanatakikana kuzaliwa wakati huo, lakini sasa wako na sisi.
Okay. Yeah. Muda si mrefu kama dakika 2 hivi tutakuwa tunachukua pumziko. Mwelekezi wangu ananiarifu vile, lakini pale pale kwa kupanga uzazi. Labda
Dora, kabla hujauliza. Nyingine kuuliza wewe na wananchi na hata Francis. Mungu akikupatia mtoto, anakupatia na sahani lake.
Wanasema hivyo.
Haya, sasa uliza.
Kwa hivyo mtoto akija
ukishashika ujauzito, wanawake usikubali kuentertain mawazo ya kutoa mimba. Afadhali ukatumia mbinu za upangaji uzazi, aidha ukachelewesha ama ukaepuka. Lakini akishaingia zawadi ya Mwenyezi Mungu
lazima ituzwe. Na ulikundua kwamba labda zile mbinu ambazo labda zinatumika sana ni zipi wakati tunakwenda kuchukua pumziko katika masuala yale ya upangaji uzazi?
Hiyo ni zoni ya Bwana Francis. Wacha tudunge.
Mbinu zipi sana akina mama wanatumia ama wale ambao wamekumbatia mfumo wa kupanga uzazi?
Zile wanatumia sana ni zile wanaita injectables alafu na implants. Hizo ndio zinatumika sana na akina mama, na tunaelewa ni kwa nini. Pengine wanataka kuchelewesha kupata mtoto, kwa hivyo wanatumia hiyo, na wakati ambapo inafika wanataka kupata mimba ili wapate mtoto, basi wanawacha kutumia. Kwa hivyo hizo methods ni zile pengine tunaita kama kwa kimombo tunasema temporary. Okay? Ndio ikifika wakati unawacha kutumia, unapata mimba, unapata mtoto wako kwa wakati ambapo wewe mwenyewe umetaka. Yeah.
Naam, tutachukua pumziko fupi pale pale katika masuala ya kupanga uzazi. Msikilizaji wa Radio Taifa na vile vile mtazamaji wa KBC Channel, natumai kwamba unazidi kumakinika katika mazungumzo ya siku leo, ambapo tunaangazia tafiti ya sera za afya hapa nchini, utafiti ambao ulifanywa na shirika la kitaifa la takwimu Kenya National Bureau of Statistics majuma machache yaliyopita, na kuna mengi tu ambayo yalijitokeza katika ile ripoti ambayo tunajaribu kuchambua hasa katika masuala ya afya na takwimu mbalimbali. Na hapa studio na wageni ninaye Bwana Francis Kundu, yeye pia anakuwa ni meneja mkuu pale katika masuala haya ya tafiti, na vile vile tuna Bwana Stanley Wambua ambaye pia anashughulikia ama anasimamia kitengo cha masuala ya jinsia ijapo katika takwimu pale Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. Tunachukua pumziko fupi. Radio Taifa KBC Channel 1, tunarejea baada ya muda usio mrefu.
Asante sana basi mwenzangu Dora Maji upande wa pili hapo.
Forward with every step. Faster every day. Every hurdle closer to our dreams. Where becoming extraordinary is an everyday business. Commitment. Determination. Sacrifice. Drive. To run faster. Throw further. Jump longer. This is how superheroes are made, who amaze the world all over again and again. Welcome to where dreams unfold and records are broken. This August, welcome to stunning Budapest, where you can watch the superheroes live and be sure it will be majestic, limitless.
오늘이 D-Day입니다. 오늘이 D-Day입니다.
나는 내가 다음 약속이 안 나오거든.
걱정 말아요. 내가 계속 지켜보고 있을 거니까.
그냥 잘못된 줄 알고. 저를 해주세요.
Так, женщина. Ясно? Ясно.
Yes, Massive and Crew, if you love reggae and you're a reggae head, you know the place to be each and every Wednesday.
You gotta show me the future in this. You make me stay when I should not. Are you so strong or is the weakness in me? Why do you come here?
Yeah, remember this is where radio meets TV.
Karibu tena msikilizaji wa Radio Taifa, mtazamaji wa KBC Channel 1. Tunarejea baada ya pumziko fupi tukiangazia masuala ya tafiti za sera ya afya hapa nchini, utafiti ambao umefanywa majuma machache yaliyopita, na kuna mengi tu ambayo yanajitokeza katika ile ripoti, na tulivyokujuza kwamba ripoti hii ni kubwa, tuweze tukaweza kuichambua yote tukaweza kumaliza, lakini tunaangazia masuala machache tu kuhusiana aswa na masuala ya afya. Hapa studioni basi na wageni wangu ambao tunaangazia swala hili kutoka shirika hilo la tafiti la Kenya National Bureau of Statistics kutueleza zaidi kuhusiana na swala hili. Upande wa pili mwenzangu Rashid Mwamkondo, mimi naitwa Dora Manya. Zungumza nasi katika Facebook page yetu KBC Radio Taifa Sauti ya Mkenya ama KBC Channel 1, na vile vile kupitia Twitter #unekazenga @KBC Channel 1 @Dora Manya @Mwamkondo. Itakuwa vizuri. Karibu tena wageni wangu, baada ya kuchukua pumziko fupi, angalau tumezungumza hapa studioni, na nilivyokuambia msikilizaji na vile vile mtazamaji ni kwamba tunaangazia mawili matatu, naye bwana Ambua hapa studioni na bwana Kundu ambaye wanasaidia kuelewa ripoti hii kwa kina tuweze kuifahamu. Tumekuwa tukizungumzia masuala hayo ya magonjwa mbalimbali ambayo utafiti pia ambao mlifanya, masuala ya uzazi. Hebu nirudi kwako bwana Kundu kidogo, tuangazie masuala ya virusi vya ugonjwa wa ukimwi. Ni jambo ambalo hatuwezi kukosa kugusia. Takwimu zenu zilikuwa zinaonyesha vipi, na labda hatari iko wapi haswa?
Takwimu zetu ziliweza kuonyesha ya kwamba katika Kenya wanawake tuseme 9 kati ya 10 wameshawahi pimwa ikiwa wana virusi hivyo. Alafu kwa upande wa wanaume ni 7 kati ya 10 ambao wamewahi kupimwa.
Wanawake 9 kati ya 10 yes, wamepimwa virusi vya HIV.
Ndio.
Wanaume 7 kati ya 10 wamepimwa.
Kwa hivyo tunaona ya kwamba wanaume pengine hapo hawajafanya vizuri sana. Alafu pia tuliweza kuangalia kwa sababu inakuwa recommended ya kwamba mtu at least ujaribu kila mwaka uweze kupimwa. Kwa hivyo tulijaribu kuangalia ni wangapi ambao katika mwaka mmoja waliweza kupimwa. Na tuliona ya kwamba wanawake karibu wawili, moja kati ya wawili. Lakini kwa wanaume ni mmoja kati ya 3 ambaye aliweza kupimwa virusi vya ukimwi kwa mwaka mmoja kabla utafiti wetu. Kwa hivyo ile ambayo serikali inasisitiza ya kwamba kila wakati mara kwa mara watu waweze kupimwa, tuliweza kuona ya kwamba pengine hatufanye vizuri hapo. Na pia jambo lingine ambalo tuliweza kupata tulipofanya utafiti wetu ni kwamba watu bado wako na zile tabia za kubagua wale ambao wana virusi vya ukimwi. Kwa sababu tuliweza kuuliza kama kwa mfano ikiwa mimi nina virusi vya ukimwi, wengine na pengine nina biashara yangu, tuliweza kuuliza watu, ikiwa mimi nina ukimwi na nina biashara yangu, unaweza kuja kununua kwa duka yangu? Kuna wale ambao bado walikuwa wanasema hatuwezi kununua, both wanaume na pia akina mama. Pia tukauliza swali lingine, ikiwa mimi nina virusi vya ukimwi alafu mtoto wangu anaenda shule na mtoto wako, hiyo ni jambo mzuri? Kuna wale ambao walikuwa wanasema hiyo si jambo nzuri. Kwa hivyo bado kuna ile tabia ya kubagua wale ambao wako na virusi vya ukimwi. Kwa hivyo hapo bado pia tunaona ya kwamba tuna kazi nyingine ya kufanya. Kwa sababu tunajua ya kwamba ikiwa mtu anakuja kununua kwa duka ambayo mwenye duka ni yuko HIV positive, haitakuambukiza ukimwi.
Hivyo bado kuna masuala ya unyanyapaa, ile tunasema stigma kwa Kiingereza.
Ndio, hiyo bado iko na inafaa basi tuweze kushughulikia jambo hilo.
Na katika wale ambao wanapimwa, ukiangalia miaka ya nyuma na sasa, idadi ile yazidi kuongezeka, wale ambao wanaenda kujua hali yao ya kiafya, ama inaenda ikipungua?
Inazidi ikiongezeka. Na ni nzuri kwa sababu kwa upande wa kina mama tunaona mara mingi wanapimwa wakati ambapo wamepata mimba, wanaenda katika hospitali wanapimwa. Ndio kwa sababu tunaona kwamba idadi ambao wamepimwa iko juu. Lakini kwa wanaume pengine ile nafasi ya kwenda kupimwa pengine hawaichukulii. Kwa sababu ingefaa waende lakini hawaendi vile. Ni 7 kati ya 10, na ikikuja wale ambao wanapimwa kila mwaka pengine ni karibu ni 1 kati ya 3. Kwa hivyo hapo hatufanyi vizuri. Na ni vizuri ya kwamba kila mtu aweze kujua hali yake ya HIV iko namna gani.
Bwana Stanley Wambua, labda hapo kwa wanaume kutojua ama kutaka kujua hali zao, nafahamishwa kwamba kuna wanaume ambao mama akishapata ujauzito anasema, mama wewe kama umepimwa, mimi niko sawa.
Mimi niko sawa.
Ipo haja tena yeye kupimwa kweli?
Kuna haja kubwa sana uende kupimwa. Hasa linalonitia wasiwasi ni kwamba tukiangalia katika usawa wa jinsia, mmoja anajitahidi anajipima, kwa sababu ukipimwa ama ukijipima umepata ufahamu, si ndivyo? Sasa ukiangalia wanawake 9 kati ya 10, wanaume 7 kati ya 10. Hawa wanaume wawili hawa balaa iko hapo. Kwa sababu wako na uwezo wa kuambukiza watu wengine wengi zaidi, kwa sababu hawajui. Kwa hivyo pia kuna ile dhana ya kwamba baadhi ya sisi wanaume kwamba dume huanguka na nyasi mdomoni. Hiyo dhana tuache. Wanaume nendeni mpimwe. Nadhani kuna wanaume wananisikiliza saa hii. Enda upimwe. Usiseme kwamba mama akipimwa na yuko sawa na wewe uko sawa, unajaribu kumtumia kama proxy indicator. Hiyo sio practice ile nzuri. Kwa hivyo ni mzuri kila mtu apimwe. Ukishajua hali yako unaweza kujikinga.
Upo wakati katika miaka ya nyuma ulikuwa unaona kampeni za watu kwenda kupimwa kuhusiana na virusi vya HIV. Ile kampeni ilikuwa juu sana. Ungepata mabango kila mahali, mtu yote anaweza kupata ugonjwa ukimwi, nenda ukapimwa na kadhalika. Kwa sasa tathmini yenu ni vipi kwamba zile kampeni bado zipo kuleta hamasa kwa umma, ama kuna upungufu mahali ambapo kunafaa kurekebishwa?
Pengine kutokana na takwimu ambazo tumeweza kupata inaonyesha kwamba pengine hizo jitihada zinafaa kuweza kuendelea. Kwa sababu tusipofanya hivyo basi huenda idadi ambao wanapimwa itaendelea kupungua. Kwa sababu jambo lingine ambalo tuliweza kuona ambao pia ilikuwa jambo ambalo si nzuri ni kwamba vijana kati ya miaka 15 na 24 ni karibu tu nusu ambao wanajua jinsi ambavyo virusi vya ukimwi vinasambazwa na jinsi na mambo ambao wanaweza kufanya ili wasiweze kupata virusi hivyo. Kwa hivyo hii si jambo nzuri hata kidogo. Kwa hivyo zile kampeni zinafaa zirudishwe ili hawa vijana ambao tunayo kwa kipombo tunasema wataanza kuwa sexually active waweze kujua jinsi ambavyo wanaweza kujikinga ili wasiweze kupata virusi hivi. Yeah.
Naam, tuchukue mkono tofauti kidogo, tuangazie masuala ya ajira kabla tumruhusu labda msikilizaji na mtazamaji kutupatia kauli zao na maoni yao kupitia mitandao na vile vile laini zetu za simu. Kwamba pia nakisiwa takriban vijana milioni 3 hawana ajira, na pia idadi hii inaendelea kuwa mbaya ama kuongezeka, huku vijana wengi pia wakihitimu kutoka vyuo vikuu kila mwaka na hawana kazi. Sijui kwamba kabla tuangazie pia masuala ya ajira upande wa wanaume na wanawake, tuangalie ajira katika vijana. Suluhu ni lipi kwenda mbele? Maana wakati mnafanya utafiti wa takwimu, haya ni baadhi ya masuala pia ambayo mnaangazia. Suluhu ni lipi kuhakikisha kwamba vijana wetu ambao wanafuzu wanaweza wakawa na ajira?
Jambo ambalo tunapaswa kuweza kufanya, kwanza nitaje kwamba katika Kenya wale ambao tunaita vijana ama youth kuanzia miaka 18 hadi 34 ni kama 29% ya idadi yote ya Wakenya. Kwa hivyo hao ni wengi, na wakati huu tunaona ya kwamba wengi wameweza kuelimika, wamesoma, wanatafuta nafasi za kuweza kupata kazi. Kwa hivyo hii ni idadi ya watu ambao wanapaswa kuweza kushughulikiwa. Kwa hivyo jambo ambalo tulikuwa tumeweza kupata hapo awali katika utafiti mwingine ni kwamba kuna nafasi za kazi ambazo zinapaswa kuweza kuundwa katika counties ili vijana waweze kupata nafasi. Kwa sababu ukiangalia upande wa elimu, hapo awali tulikuwa tunasisitiza ya kwamba watu waende mpaka kiwango cha juu sana, mpaka university. Lakini wakati huu ukiangalia unaona ya kwamba serikali ni kama imeshika mkondo mwingine. Inajaribu kusaidia vijana waende katika zile TVET, vyuo vya kiufundi, waweze kupata zile skills na waweze kutumia, kwa sababu kuna nafasi katika hiyo level. Kwa hivyo jambo ambalo serikali inafanya ni kwamba kusisitiza ya kwamba watu waende katika hizi vyuo vya ufundi ili waweze kupata nafasi hizo za kazi. Lakini sasa katika county governments wanapaswa kuweza kuona ni nafasi gani za kazi za ajira ambazo ziko katika county zao, ambazo ikiwa pengine wataweza kuweka investments katika sehemu hizo, itaweza kuleta nafasi za kazi na pia vijana waweze kupata nafasi hizo. Kwa sababu tunaona ya kwamba ukiangalia masuala ya uhamiaji, unapata ni vijana wengi ambao wanahama kutoka kutoka sehemu za mashambani kwenda mjini kutafuta ajira. Na tunajua kwamba ajira katika miji si nyingi vile. Watu ni wengi, ajira ni chache. Kwa hivyo nafasi zinafaa ziweze kubuniwa kule nje katika kaunti, ili vijana ambao wako katika sehemu za mashambani pia waweze kupata nafasi huko, badala ya wote kuweza kuja katika miji mikuu.
Bwana Wambua, unashughulika na masuala ya takwimu za kijinsia. Na iwapo sijakosea, basi pia takwimu zenu zilionyesha kwamba kuna 71% ya wanawake ama 71% ya wanawake wanapata mshahara wa chini kuliko wanaume, na kuna 4% ya wanawake ambao wameolewa ambao ndio wana mapato yao, lakini wenyewe ndio wanafanya maamuzi yao binafsi kuhusu vile zile pesa zitatumika. Hebu tuzungumzie hizo tofauti, ijapo katika masuala ya matumizi ya pesa na vile vile ajira kwa wanaume na wanawake.
Asante. Nafikiria tuanzie na hiyo ya kwanza, ambapo tumesema 71% kwa hesabu ya urahisi ni kama wanawake 7 kati ya 10. Sasa hivyo kwamba mapato yao ni chini ya waume zao. Hiyo ni area nyingine ambayo pia nilikuwa nimetoa changamoto hapo awali kwamba tukipanda asubuhi tusitarajie kuvuna adhuhuri. Ni mambo inachukuanga muda. Ni kweli tumefanya tafiti nyingi na zinaonyesha kwamba kuna utofauti ya skill development baina ya wanawake na wanaume. Ukichukua kisheria kama ya for example enrollment katika primary na secondary, tumefikia parity tayari 1-1. Alright? Lakini tukisonga hapo juu university mizani inaanza kubadilika. Tukipanda tena, tukiingia kwa kina, tuanze kuangalia wanawake ni cause gani zile wanafanya. Unaona tena imefanya nini? Wamepotea kwa science, wameenda kwa usanii. Umeelewa? Kwa hivyo unakuta kwa sababu hiyo, tukija katika soko pale, mtu for example unaweka ujuzi wako katika soko, hizo tofauti mwishowe zitakuja kuchangia kwamba ukipiga jumla ya wanawake walioko katika ndoa, yale mapato wanapata, unakuta kiasi kikubwa hiyo ambao ni 7 juu ya 10 watapata mapato chini ya waume zao. Lakini tukiendelea vile tunaendelea kuhimiza, na hiyo ndio sababu moja tuko hapa kuweka hii sauti isikike kila mahali, mimi naona huo usawa with time tutafika. Mimi naona tutafika. Hata kama isipofika ile tunaita parity, kukua sawa, inakaribiana, ikuwe ni karibu 1-1 vile walizaliwa ama vile tuko katika population.
Kwamba tupate kiwango cha mshahara ambao ni sawa kulingana na mapato yetu, kulingana na masomo. Okay, na wanawake wamesema pia 4% wenyewe wanafanya maamuzi. Kwa dakika moja tu kabla tusikie msikilizaji.
Asante. Kwa hivyo pia uchunguzi umeonyesha 44%. Hiyo ni sawa na wanawake 4 kwa 10 wako na wanafanya maamuzi yao kwa udhibiti wa ile income mapato wanapata. Right? Alafu 40% wengine 4 kati ya 10 wanashirikiana na waume zao. Kwa hivyo wewe umeenda ukapata mshahara, lakini tunaamulia kwa meza sisi wote. Sawa.
Kwa hivyo wanaoshirikiana na waume zao katika kufanya maamuzi ni wengi ama wachache?
Ni wale wanaofanya kibinafsi ni 44%, kwa hivyo wako juu kidogo, na wale anafanya pamoja na umeo ni 40%. Yes.
Okay. Mwelekezi wangu, natumai nina dakika kama 3 za kupokea simu upande wa pili wa studio. Asante sana. Tunaweza kuvalia hivi tuende kwake ndugu yangu Rashid Mwamkondo kama kuna maswali 2-3 katika njia mitandao Facebook na Twitter, na vile vile tunaweza tukapokea simu chache. Mimi nimefurahishwa na hapo mwisho kwa asilimia wanawake ambao wanafanya maamuzi yao ya pesa wenyewe. Rashid, kama unanipata?
Alright, nakupata Dora Manya, ikiwa hivi sasa msikilizaji ni saa 3 bado dakika 13 saa za kanda ya Afrika Mashariki. 0700176699 njoo hewani, alafu uliza swali kwa kifupi tu kwa sababu ya kiashiria muda. Hello Zinga.
Rashid Mwamkondo, habari zenu?
Mzuri sana.
Na Tanzania, mimi Thomas niko mwanzo hapo. Mimi nasema kwa hii mambo ya idadi ya watu, tunaona tunaweza kuwa na wengi, tuko wengi sana mpaka hata serikali haitapata nafasi ya kutosheleza mzuri.
Okay, asante sana kwa swali lako ndugu. Hello Zinga.
Hello, jambo ndugu yangu Rashid Mwamkondo.
Jambo mingi.
Omar baba saina kutoka Lesos na Dikandi.
Karibu sana.
Ningependa kuuliza wageni wetu, zazile wanafanya utafiti kuhusu vijana ambao hawana kazi, mbona wanalenga pia university peke yake? Kwani hao wakimaliza standard kutoka form 4 sio vijana?
Asante Omar kutoka Nandi. Hello Zinga. Alright, Dora, nirudi kwako kwa sababu ya muda, tuweze kujibu maswali hayo. Kwako Dora Manya.
Shukrani sana Rashid. Upande wa pili, wageni wangu hapa studioni, wakati mnafanya tafiti umesikia hilo swali. Kuna mtu ameuliza, je, tunaweza kuwa tuko wengi mpaka serikali inaweza kushindwa kushughulikia mahitaji ya watu wake?
Vile nilitaja hapo awali ni kwamba kwa wakati huu tunaona ya kwamba idadi ya watoto ambao wanawake wanapata inazidi kwenda chini, na hii ni kwa sababu ya juhudi za serikali kujaribu kupunguza ile kasi ambayo idadi ya watu inaongezeka katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Kwa hivyo tunapaswa kwamba ikiwa juhudi hizo zitaweza kuendelea, tutafika mahali ambapo serikali sasa itaweza kutosheleza mahitaji ya wale watu ambao wako. Kwa hivyo hiyo ni juhudi ambayo serikali inafanya kwa wakati huu, na takwimu zinaonyesha kwamba tunasonga in the right direction kuhusiana na jambo hilo.
Kwa hivyo utafiti huu ni muhimu kusaidia pia serikali kupanga kuhusu watu wake.
Ndio vile niliweza kutaja hapo awali ni kwamba takwimu hizi zinaonyesha zile juhudi ambazo tumeweza kufanya hapo awali ikiwa zinafaulu, na pia tumeweza kuona katika zile sehemu ambapo hizo juhudi pengine hatujafanya vizuri sana, na kwa hivyo tukisonga mbele tutaweza kutumia takwimu hizo kuweza kupanga tena vizuri upya tuweze kujaribu kufikia malengo yetu ya maendeleo.
Bwana Wambua, kuhusu masuala ya uajiri kwa vijana, kuna msikilizaji umemsikia?
Nimemsikia vizuri.
Kama tunaangazia sana vijana ambao wametoka katika vyuo vikuu.
Sikupata jina lake lakini natumai anatusikiliza. Ya Bwana Omar, salamu alaikum. Sasa msimamo wa serikali haubagui baina ya wale wanaofuzu kutoka vyuo vikuu. Ni kweli kwamba ukichukua jumla yote ya wale wanaofuzu kutoka vyuo vikuu na wale wanaofuzu kutoka katika ile vyuo vya kadri, tuseme TVETs, hiyo idadi yote si kama zamani. Serikali haiwezi kuajiri wote. Kwa hivyo mimi nahusia hivi kama Mkenya na kama mzazi, vijana, ukienda ufanye course ambayo inakupatia skills, mbinu, ufahamu wa kufanya kazi yoyote, number 1, jitolee kufanya ile kazi umesomea kabisa ikitokezea, na uhakikishe quality ya kazi yako ni nzuri. Ubora wa kazi yako, ile product unatoa ni nzuri. Ya pili, ubunifu. Tujaribu kubuni new products ndio uweze kupata soko. Ya tatu, tuchukue mfano. Unaweza kuwa uko na weledi wa kufanya na kuzalisha bidhaa nzuri. Usiangalie ile soko tu ya akaunti yako peke yake. Na inaweza kuwa pia, wajua, katika kuzalisha bidhaa na huduma, kama unaona kwa mfano nyinyi mko wengi katika akaunti yako wenye huo ujuzi, hamia akaunti nyingine, tuko Kenya moja, especially katika sekta ya kibinafsi. Haibagui, inaangalia quality ya product, inaangalia huduma yako iko namna gani. Kwa hivyo tusibague, tujaribu namna hiyo, ndio wale serikali itaweza kuajiri moja kwa moja, ni sawa. Wale ambao hatutapata nafasi pande ile, kuna misemo katika lugha zetu za kiasili huwa inasema saa nyingine nyani hawatoshei katika tawi moja, lazima wengine waruka kwa mtu mwingine. Kwa hivyo pia tuendelee kunadi ujuzi wetu katika sekta ya kibinafsi. I know pengine hilo linaweza kukosa kupokelewa vizuri, kwa sababu zamani expectation, matarajio ilikuwa tukimaliza tu kusoma tutafanya nini? Na KBC mnajua.
Ndio.
Someni vijana, mkimaliza kusoma
utapata kazi.
Ilikuwa hivyo siku hizo.
Ndio.
Sasa maisha imebadilika kidogo. Okay. Kwa hivyo kwa sababu Kenya ni yetu sisi wote. Kenya sio ya serikali peke yake, ni yetu sisi wote. Kwa hivyo tuiangalie katika huo mtazamo kwamba ukikuwa na skills, usikae pale nyumbani wewe unangojea serikali ikuajiri. Hapana, nadi huo ujuzi wako na huo weledi wako, na haba itajaza kibabu.
Tuna dakika 3 kutamatisha haya mazungumzo, na sitamaliza bila kugusia jambo la labda ukeketaji pia katika masuala yenu utafiti huu. Mambo ya ukeketaji najua alijitokeza kidogo tu, kwa ufupi tugusie hilo. Hali iko vipi sasa nchini? Serikali imekuwa ikipinga mambo ya ukeketaji. Kuna wale wananchi wamekumbatia, lakini wengine bado. Tuko wapi japo katika mambo ya ukeketaji?
Katika takwimu hivi za hivi punde tumeweza kuona kwamba mambo imekuwa mazuri zaidi, kwa sababu sasa ukeketaji wa wanawake umezidi kupungua. Sasa imefikia pengine asilimia 15. Na hapo awali ilikuwa asilimia karibu 21. Kwa hivyo tumeona katika kufikia mwaka wa 2022 idadi hiyo imeweza kupungua, na hilo ni jambo nzuri. Pia jambo lingine ambalo tuweza kupata ni kwamba wote, wanaume na wanawake, 9 kati ya 10 wanasema ya kwamba jambo hili linapaswa kuweza kuisha. Na tunaona ya kwamba hiyo ni jambo nzuri. Ikiwa basi tutaendelea na jitihada hizo, basi tutaweza kupunguza ukeketaji wa wanawake nchini.
Bwana Wambua, unasemaje kuhusu masuala ya ukeketaji na tafiti zenu?
Naam, naweza kusema kwamba katika sekta tuna celebrate. Hatujafika, lakini tuna celebrate. Mambo ya kubadilisha mawazo ya watu sio mambo ambao unaweza kuvuna kwa muda mfupi. Lakini ukiangalia takwimu vile mwenzangu amesema, tukiangalia wakati ulianza kuuliza hao maswali mwaka wa 1998 mpaka mwaka uliopita, imekuwa inateremka, ni kama laini tu inateremka, ambao ni ishara ya kwamba miaka 10 ijayo tunatarajia kwamba hiyo percentage asilimia pengine itateremka kabisa, ifike hata 2% ama ikuje 0. Kwa hivyo ukiangalia jitihada za serikali hapo zimekuwa nyingi. Tumeona katika katiba ikitajwa, tumeona katika Sexual Offences Act ikitajwa na kuharamishwa ni kinyume cha sheria. Tumeona serikali ikibuni tume tume nzima ya kitaifa ya usawa wa kijinsia. Tumeona serikali tena ikabuni the and FGM board, halmashauri ya kupambana na ukeketaji. Kwa hivyo ukiangalia hizi jitihada zote, tunaweza kusema zimechangia pakubwa kwa kupunguza nini? Kupunguza idadi ya wanawake ambao wanakeketwa. Na kwa hivyo tunasema hongera upande wa serikali na pia wananchi kukubali kufanya nini? Kugeuza mawazo.
Sawa sawa. Nataka tumalize kila mtu kwa sekunde labda 45 tu wito wako kwa Wakenya ijapo katika masuala sana ya afya, maana kwa leo tunaangazia sana mambo ya afya. Kuna mengi ambayo tujagusia, wale walala kwa vyandarua na kadhalika. Kwa sekunde 45 Bwana Francis Kundu azungumza kuhusiana na masuala ya afya na utafiti ambao mlifanya.
Asante Dora. Tunaona ya kwamba takwimu zinaonyesha kwamba tunazidi kufanya vizuri katika kama nchi. Katika upande wa afya tumeweza kuona idadi ya watoto ambao wanakufa kabla ya kufikisha miaka 5 inazidi kupungua. Afya kina mama inazidi kuwa bora zaidi. Matumizi ya huduma za afya pia inazidi kuwa bora zaidi, na tunafaa kuweza kuendelea namna hiyo. Ikiwa tutaendelea hivyo basi wakati ule mwingine ambapo tutaweza kufanya utafiti huu itakuwa mwaka wa 2027, tunatarajia kwamba mambo yatakuwa mazuri zaidi. Na zaidi ya hayo ningependa kusema ya kwamba baadaye mwaka huu tutaweza kwenda na takwimu hizi katika kaunti zote 47 nchini Kenya, na tutaweza kuwa na mazungumzo na hizo county governments na wananchi katika kaunti hizo, tuweze kuangalia takwimu zao na ni nini ambao tunaweza kufanya ili kuboresha maisha ya wananchi katika kaunti hizo.
Asante sana kwako Bwana Wambua, labda taja kitu kuhusu dhuluma za kijinsia kwa sekunde chache, alafu kauli zako tuko wa Kenya kuhusiana na masuala ya afya na vile vile hizo dhuluma. Asante
wa Kenya. Mimi naomba tu tusaidiane kuendelea kuweka hii hoja ya kupambana dhidi ya ukeketaji wa wanawake. Tupunguze hiyo percentage hiyo ya 14 hiyo iteremke kabisa mpaka 0, kwa sababu hakuna haja ya kuendelea kufanya kitu ambacho faida zake zimepotea. Inakuwa iko na madhara zaidi kuliko faida. Kwa hivyo haistahili tuendelee. Tusione kwamba tu ni sheria inasukuma, lakini ndani yetu sisi wenyewe tuamue ni kitu haina manufaa, na kwa hivyo tuachane nayo. Nikimalizia nataka niseme ya kwamba furaha yetu kama shirika ni kuona takwimu zile ambao tunazalisha zinatumika katika maamuzi. Zinatumika katika maamuzi. Ukifanya mipango, tumia hizo takwimu. Ukienda kufuatilia ile tunaitanga monitoring and evaluation, tumia hizo takwimu. Wacha niambie Wakenya kwamba kuzalisha takwimu ni jambo liko na gharama kubwa sana. Gharama kubwa sana. Kwa hivyo tuzitumie. Na ningependa pia kusema kwamba hii report, ijapo zile printed reports, pengine nitakuzawadi na moja, hatukuchapisha nyingi, lakini tushaipakia katika tovuti ya Kenya. Sijui kama kuna namna inaweza kupeperusha huko, lakini in case hakuna namna, naweza kuwasomea www.knbs.or.ke. Tushaipakia pale, na katika hiyo tovuti yenyewe kusema ukweli KNBS ni benki hata takwimu. Kwa hivyo muende huko mu-download shilingi 10, uenda kwa cyber, unai-download na unajisomea mwenyewe. Haya tumesema leo saa 1 halitoshi. Kwa hivyo ni vidokezo. Wacha nifike hapo.
Asante. Na msikilizaji na mtazamaji, ukitembelea tovuti ya KNBS utapata mengi tena zaidi kuhusiana na mambo ambayo tumejadili leo. Asanteni kwa muda wenu. Tutapanga tena hatujamaliza haya masuala hapo kwa jinsia sana. Asante sana msikilizaji, mtazamaji. Shukrani kutenga muda kuwa pamoja nasi. Ningependa kusema asante sana kwa wageni wangu hapa studioni, Bwana Stanley Wambua ambaye ni mkuu wa kitengo cha takwimu za jinsia pale Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, na vile vile Bwana Francis Kundu ambaye ni meneja wa masuala ya idadi ya watu pale Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. Na kwa wewe pia mtazamaji na msikilizaji tunasema asante. Itifaki yote ikizingatiwa, kaimu mkurugenzi mkuu wa shirika hili la utangazaji Bwana Samuel Maina, vile vile wakuu wangu wa vitengo mbalimbali Bi Mary Daraja, Bwana Martin Kingasia, vile vile Bwana Geoffrey Onditi na Bilusi Wahome, na wapiga picha na waelekezi wangu. Nasema asante sana kuweza kufanikisha makala siku ya leo ya Gumzo Pevu. Mimi naitwa Dora Manya. Endelea kusikiliza Radio Taifa na tizama vipindi vyetu katika KBC Channel 1.
have a secret. Whenever I want, I can travel to wherever I want, far into the distant past. Here I am in the Cenozoic era. There's nothing better than fresh ice from the Ice Age. Whoa! Oh! Huh? What's going on? How could this be possible? The most extraordinary adventures. The most dangerous traps. The most complicated puzzles. The most concealed secrets. Don't stand a chance in front of the Relic Guardian. Now let's write history together.
Got this feeling down deep in my soul that I just can't shit down. On my way. And girl, if you wanna take a chance, I'll show you what I can do. And baby, let me show you what I've got in store for me and you.
Why do you come here when you know I got trouble in them? Why do you call me when you know I can answer the phone? Make me lie when I don't want to.
But tell me what to do or what to say to make it right. 'Cause I need your arms around me every night. To me.
All right, at exactly 4 minutes past 9 a.m., Health Tuesday is the segment that is on air right here on Good Morning Kenya, and my name is Vivian Dego. Now, infertility is a sensitive topic that is often overlooked, but going by the statistics, whereby 1 in every 6 people globally suffer from infertility, and right here in the country, 1 in every 5 couples are struggling with conceiving. It is clearly a topic that we need to dissect. And joining me in studio yet again, since last week we got disrupted, is Dr. Mohammed Ali Hassan, who is a consultant obstetrician and gynecologist. And joining us for the first time is Dr. Rajesh Chowdhury, who is the lead IVF specialist, Fertility Point, Kenya. Welcome to the studio, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, if we may just begin by defining what infertility is, Dr. Mohammed.
Thank you very much. So infertility is the failure of a couple who at their reproductive age, following sexual intercourse, unprotected sexual intercourse, without using any contraception within a period of 1 year. That is failure to conceive within that period of 1 year. But the duration is shorter for women who are above the age of 35, and the ones whose cause of infertility has been discovered.
Okay, now that you mentioned cause of infertility, if Dr. Rajesh, you may get into some of the causes of infertility.
So infertility cause depends on the age of the patient. So in men the causes are different, and women the causes are different. Let's talk about the men first. So the most common cause of infertility in men is that could be, sometimes it can be genetic, where the genes in the Y chromosome can be disrupted, leading to either azoospermia when there is no sperm at all, or there can be very low sperm count. Then there could be a cause of like anatomic cause like varicocele or undescended testes. There can be sometimes a childhood infection like mumps, which can lead to, or orchitis, which can lead to like infertility in men. Then recently there may be a lifestyle, like some hormone disruptors like phthalates and bisphenol, which we get in the plastics. So these consumptions in chronic time it can lead to infertility.
Okay.
So extreme obesity, like when someone the weight is very, BMI is high, so and then there is a fat in the body, so that lead to the accumulation of estrogen in men. Now estrogen is a female hormone, and that suppresses the testosterone, which can lead to again infertility, so low sperm count. So these are some causes of infertility in men. In women, it is a bit different. Again, a hormone causes are there, like PCOS, a very premature failure of ovary, where the egg production comes down. Again, genetic is a bit common in women as well. Like when the X chromosome, the gene in X chromosome is disrupted. Then the tubal factors, like when the tubes are infected or blocked, or say the uterus factor, when there is a fibroids or adenomyosis, that can lead to, that can disrupt the process of implantation. So these are some common causes of infertility in men and women. But there other cause is age related. Like someone can be fertile at the age of 20 and 30, but when they wish to get pregnant at 40, then there can be a problem.
Okay, so what exactly is the appropriate age biologically for one to try get a baby? Until what age is appropriate?
Yeah, so it's all related to the egg quality in women. For men, the perspective is different. The age effect in men is a bit late, say after 45. There can be a DNA damage to the sperm. But in women, the best time to get pregnant is before 32 years.
Okay.
So because after 32, the quality of egg starts declining. The quality and the number of the egg. And then she may have to struggle to get pregnant.
Okay, so men also have a biological clock. We always assume that it's only women who, should rush with that biological clock. But as you've said, from the age of 45, a man's sperm quality has also gone down, so they may not be as fertile as well.
Yeah.
All
so
right.
even men experience andropause, like women experience menopause. Even men experience andropause.
Okay. All right. Dr. Mohammed, if you may just get us into some of the causes of that may cause the sperm quality to go down.
So there are a few issues. First of all, we could start with age, which could cut across both genders. That is above the age of 35. There is a decline in quality of sperms. There is a decline in quality of eggs. There is also issues with unhealthy lifestyle that is now going into drug abuse, going into excessive alcohol drinking. There's issues with smoking. There are chronic illnesses. Having issues with diabetes, poor control. Then there are autoimmune disorders also that could interfere with the quality of your sperms and eggs. And for the weight, the obesity also is a major contributing factor. For the ones who have a high BMI, they have difficulty achieving pregnancy, or rather like conceiving.
That's for both men and women.
Yeah,
that is some of the factors that affect the egg quality and also the sperm quality.
Yeah, and also occupation-wise, the environmental factors, being exposed to ionizing radiations, especially if you're working in radiology department for long.
Are there any symptoms of infertility aside from one just trying to conceive and they don't conceive? Are there any other symptoms maybe?
Most of the time there is no symptoms, but when you have for women, if she experiences like hot flushes, or say there is a severe abdominal pain during menstruation, that could be a sign of endometriosis. Or say abdominal pain, severe abdominal pain, not only during the menstrual time also. Or for men it could be like if there is a erectile dysfunction, or if there is a pain during ejaculation. So, but these symptoms are not experienced by majority of the infertile couple.
So when does one go for a fertility check, and where does someone go for this checkup?
Yeah, so if a couple is looking to get pregnant, and if they are trying for 1 year without the use of contraception, and if they are still struggling to get pregnant, then they should start looking for a fertility center or any gynecologist at the beginning. So even a gynecologist can offer the basic infertility services, where they can go and have a basic test like a semen analysis and ovulation check and a basic ultrasound for women, and then that can help in diagnosis in majority of the case, because a simple test that is a semen analysis can detect 30 to 40% of the time. Like even men contribute for the infertility in 50% of the case.
50% of the cases?
50%, yeah.
That is interesting to know, because most of the times when a couple is struggling with conceiving, many a times they just blame it on the woman. You know, the woman tends to take the blame. So I even had a question where I was asking, is there a gender that is more prone to infertility? And I think you've answered that, because you've said 50% of the time it's the man that has an issue. Kindly get into that. Yeah, let's get a picture how the infertility distribution is. Like 1/3 of the time it is the female, be it the tubal cause or age-related or fibroids or ovulation problem. And 1/3 of the time it is the men. Okay. And 1/3 of the time it is both. Right? Like the husband can have a subtle semen problem, and wife can too have a subtle ovulation problem. So in 1/3 of the time it is when both couple are contributing to the infertility. So in general it is a 50-50% when both men and female. Now it's very difficult for men to accept that, maybe because of how the God has made their ego. That's a different thing. But yeah, that's a reality. Yeah. God and the ego. But to conceive a baby, a female reproductive organ is a bit complicated. Like there has to be ovulation properly. There has to be a patent fallopian tube where the fertilization process happens, and there has to be a good womb lining and uterus environment where the embryo can get implanted and a healthy baby can grow there. Okay. Now, to add on what Dr. Mohammed said in the very first question, what is infertility? Infertility is not just inability to conceive. It's also when you are pregnant but not able to hold the pregnancy. You know, that is also now considered as a infertility. So the uterine environment that after the implantation and that carries the baby for pregnancy for next 9 months. Even that uterine environment, to check that uterine environment is important. Okay, so infertility is not just someone who cannot conceive. It's also, you know, whereby you conceive, yes, but you're not able to carry your baby to term. That is also referred to as infertility. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting to know. So, Dr. Mohammed, I feel like you're a gynecologist, right? Not I feel like you are a gynecologist. I feel like ladies get to start seeing a gynecologist from a really, really early age, you know. Young girls as early as 13 are advised to see a gynecologist. How important is that, and why don't we have men also being, you know, asked to, who are they supposed to see first of all?
They are also supposed to see gynecologists for different issues, and also urologists for other issues as well. Okay, so why is it important for ladies to start that early, and I don't see that being, you know, advised for men or boys as well? So that is the time when puberty happens, and puberty is when a boy or a girl develop secondary characteristics and physical characteristics, and this is the time, or rather like this is adolescence, whereby the period where onset of puberty is up to the time of adulthood when she attains 18 years of age. So during this time, there's issues which happen, especially for the young girls. This is the time when she starts having her menstruations. So she could present with painful menses, or even for the ones who have issues with for sort of hymen, imperforate hymen, whereby there is collection of blood in the vagina and the uterus. So these are reasons why a girl or a boy would come to the facility to have a look at the gynecologist, whereby they could have delayed sexual secondary characteristic, or rather delayed puberty development. So a mother would be concerned as to why her girl who is 16 years of age and has not maybe attained some characteristics. Yeah.
Okay. If you could just touch on maybe some of the societal pressures that couples face while trying to conceive, because I'm sure you have interacted with some of them.
So as a couple, there is definitely expectation of being a parent. Yeah. So at the end of the day, the reason why you two are together is because you want to conceive. Secondly, is because you want to continue with your family lineage. You want, at the end of the day, you have to have that. You want to have that genetic lineage follow. So for some, it is a social norm, whereby it is a crucial step in becoming an adult for you to become a parent. Then there is economic security in terms of whereby when you grow old at the age of maybe 60 or 70 is when you want your child maybe to take care of you. Then there are issues of also social comparison, in that you compare yourself with other couples who have already achieved their pregnancies. Then there is fear of isolation in the social circles, in that there are couples maybe who gather together with their children and go out to have fun. So you fear that isolation to happen for you.
Okay, on that note, we'll take a break, but don't you go too far. When we come back, we go on with this conversation. We get to find out, is infertility reversible, and what are some of the options that one may have? We'll be back after this short break.
There are times when reason becomes unclear in the heart, and forbidden loves come to life. Isabel Montalban will now convert paradise into a land of the wild. She knows her heart is true to one of the Oteros, but is not quite sure who of the three it is. Now, their view will blind them well beyond the core of their blood bond. In these wild lands, it is the rule of heart that is supreme. In wild lands.
Ningekuwa wewe ningehesabu masaa ya pumzi niliyobakia nayo hapo ulimwenguni.
Hapa tushamea. Mizizi shakita.
Wewe support vile anavyonifanya.
Nakwambia angalia
hizi kelele ndo mimi sitaki.
Huo ni ushirikina huu.
Kate amerudi.
She hasn't just taken this title. She's absolutely obliterated the whole field. 3:52.96.
It's a big stage, big names and big expectations. An immersive celebration of athleticism. More than 2,000 athletes from over 200 countries will compete in 49 events. Drawing inspiration from past memorable outings, Team Kenya is looking ahead for a remarkable feat in the forthcoming World Athletics Championship in Budapest, Hungary, in Central Europe. Witness the wonders from Budapest, Hungary on 19th through to the 27th of August, live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1. KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Welcome back, and we continue with our discussion right here on Good Morning Kenya Health Tuesday, which is tackling infertility and IVF. Now, there's a question that has just been sent in. I believe, Dr. Rajesh, you may take this. And they are asking, is it a myth or true that family planning can cause infertility?
99% of the time it is a myth. Why 1% is not a myth? Because sometimes when, if the family planning is IUDs, and if it causes infection in the womb lining, then it can lead to infertility. Otherwise, most of the family planning methods, they don't cause any infertility.
Okay.
So when you come out of that family planning, so after a certain time, maybe 2 months or 3 months, to 6 months, the fertility is reversed.
Okay, so it's reversible.
Yeah, it's
reversible. So it's very, very tiny chances.
Yeah, it suppresses the fertility. The purpose of the family planning is to suppress the fertility, so that the purpose of the family planning is served.
Yeah.
So when someone is taking out that family planning method like DMPA or Kapati or IUDs, and then there is a lagging time after which the fertility will be there.
Okay. I believe, Laura, you are pleased or you are okay with that answer right there. Dr. Mohammed, you wanted to tackle the issue on women and the struggles that women face, the women who are not able to conceive. You wanted to touch on that.
Okay, so there are several issues a woman undergoes. First of all, we have emotional distress. This woman would be sad, would be anxious, would be depressed as to why she's not able to achieve pregnancy. She could feel inadequate or as a failure because she's unable to conceive. There are issues with the relationship strain. So her relationship with her partner will be quite affected. And then it is time consuming, going back and forth to the hospital, trying to look for a root cause as to why you are not conceiving. Then the amount of money that you spend on treatment of these investigations, and also maybe when you find out that at the end of the day you are infertile and you think of doing assisted reproductive therapy, that is sort of IVF, then the cost implication would be high. The side effects of the treatments that you are getting also would be detrimental, and the impact on self-esteem. Definitely the woman would feel low. So those are a few issues the woman would really undergo.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's get into the big question. Is infertility reversible? And maybe Dr. Rajesh, you may help us talk about this. If you may just touch on some of the assisted fertility options that are there for a woman or a man who has been labeled infertile.
Whether the infertility is reversible or not, it depends what causes infertility. Now, say for men, if he is infertile because of varicocele, and now varicocele is a condition where the veins around the testis, they get dilated, and that can heat up the testis. So that will lead to lower sperm count and motility. So now if the varicocele is the reason for low sperm count that is leading to infertility, then repairing the varicocele can reverse the fertility. Now, but if the infertility in men is because of the infection in the testes, or say if there is a genetic reason for infertility, then infertility is not reversible. Then he have to take help of the ART, that is IVF ICSI. In the same way, if the infertility causes erectile dysfunction, then some medical or any medical condition leads to the infertility, then correcting those medical conditions can make it reversible. Now for women, if the reason for infertility is say for fibroids or any anatomical causes that leads to infertility, now if that fibroid is removed, then it can be reversible. If the cause of infertility is tubal blockage, and which is not infective in reason, then unblocking those tubes can reverse the fertility. But that can help in just in 20-30% of the cases of those women who have fallopian tube blockage. In the same way, if the any ovulation is any hormonal disruptor is there, like obesity or any intake of any fast food or any other condition that leads to hormone imbalances, and if the lifestyle changes and modifications are done with certain medicines, then that can reverse a bit the infertility. So these are the things. Now the questions: what are the options for the infertility? Again, that depends what causes infertility. So as a fertility specialist, the first motive is to help the couple without the expensive options, which are the IVF and ICSI. So if a couple are young and the cause of infertility are simple or subtle one, then that can be managed by lifestyle modification or by simple medicines or even IUI. But if the problem is severe, that demands IVF, then IVF may only be the solution. So more or less the treatment options left with the options who are suffering from infertility are the IUI or IVF and ICSI, and sometimes even advanced IVF or ICSI options like doing the genetic testing of the embryo. Like this can help someone who are having repeated implantation failure or say repeated pregnancy losses. There are some other ART options, infertility treatment option as well, like surrogacy or donor egg. So these are all options that we have. So the modern sciences has helped most of the infertile couple, and if a right direction is taken and the treatment course is the right direction of the treatment is taken, then I think 99% of the infertile couple can get a baby.
Okay. You mentioned one of the cheapest ways of tackling infertility is lifestyle. What maybe are some of the lifestyle tendencies that you would advise some of us or someone who's looking into conceiving to follow in order for them to maintain their fertility or maybe not lose their fertility?
Now this problem, infertility, can be a cascade of the events that can happen and finally leading to infertility, like hypertension or diabetes. Now, when someone is hypertensive, then he will be taking a medicine. Now, that can lead to poor sexual performance, erectile dysfunctions, and that can lead to the infertility. Now, hypertension is a result of lifestyle sometimes, obesity, and again obesity is a result of improper lifestyles, like improper food intake or lack of exercises. Now, obesity will lead, like as I said, there is a fat accumulation, estrogen, and low testosterone, and then low sperm count. That obesity is one thing. So you have to be, you have to maintain your body weight, and that you don't have to be too obese. Like the BMI has to be maintained below 25, or say below 30 is okay. In the same way, smoking, either in men or women, that can lead to damage in the gametes, I mean sperms or the eggs. So these lifestyles are important to maintain the proper quality of your gametes. And then one of the cause of infertility is sexually transmitted disease that can infect your reproductive organ.
Oh, there are sexually transmitted diseases
so that will also come under the lifestyle, like not having a hygienic life or hygienic sexual practices.
Maybe you can touch on some of these STIs that can cause someone to have an issue with the
one of the most common reasons for infertility in women is the chlamydial infection. Like the chlamydial infection of the fallopian tube is one of the major reasons of the fallopian tube blockage. Then infection in the womb lining can cause endometritis, and that can you can ovulate. The fertilization process can happen in the fallopian tube, but the implantation process, which has to happen in the womb lining, will not happen. You know, so these things are there.
Okay. IVF is something that Dr. Rajesh has mentioned as a way of assisting couples that cannot conceive, even couples that are totally, infertile. So if you can just start by the definition, what is IVF?
So this is a treatment option for couples struggling with infertility, whereby there is controlled ovarian hyperstimulation and retrieval of eggs. So these eggs and the sperms are taken to the laboratory where fertilization takes place, and then the embryo now is reimplanted back into the uterus of the woman. So basically that's the definition of IVF.
Yeah. Does this mean that can we have someone else? Can you use someone else's egg? I mean, I really want to understand it.
Yes, you can. You can use donor eggs, especially for the elderly patients. Say a woman who is in her 45 or 50 years of age and has low sperm, egg quality. So that would lead for her to use a donor egg or a donor embryo.
Yeah, for someone who is infertile and it is irreversible, as you mentioned, there are those that there's really not much that can be done. You say that IVF can help this person have their own child.
Yeah.
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 Whereby they use someone else's maybe sperm.
No. What I was saying, like the IVF is not only about using someone else. It's IVF is primarily in 80% of the time we do IVF on their own eggs and sperm.
Okay.
But someone who doesn't have a good quality of egg, say after the age of 42 or 43, the quality of the egg, the chances that someone gets healthy child with one's egg is just around 1 to 3%. Or even sometimes there may be a case where there is a repeated IVF failure, or even if she is younger. In those conditions, we can advise them to go for the donor egg. Or if there is some genetic cause, genetic reason, where there is a repeated pregnancy losses. In those conditions also, they can take help of the donor services.
Okay. And when you were talking about that, I just remembered the issue of freezing of eggs for women. I feel like in the society we live in right now, most women are career oriented, and they feel like if I get pregnant right now, maybe it might interfere with my career and where I am headed. So what are the options of freezing eggs, and how effective is that? And would you advise a lady who probably isn't ready to get pregnant and they are aware of that biological clock, so they feel like, let me just freeze my eggs. When I'm ready at 45, I'll go take it and get my child?
Yeah, this is a good question. Now, one can get her egg freeze at a younger age. What I would advise to get freeze before the age of 32, and to get egg freeze in enough number. Because, but what one has to understand that no number of egg would guarantee you a baby.
Okay.
Because even if you freeze the egg, and now still you have to rely on future whether you will have a successful IVF or not. So that is not a guaranteed. But that will certainly preserve your fertility till you want for the pregnancy. But that is not a guarantee. So the best thing is to balance the career and the personal life. You know, the life is like not like a one vehicle. It's like a two like a train where you have to, every party plays equally role in leading the life. So career, the parenthood, they can go side by side. But if that is not possible, this egg freezing is still an option.
Okay.
Now the question is how many eggs to be preserved and when to consider for the pregnancy. Some may be waiting for the right partner to come. So if you have a partner, it's best to freeze the embryo than egg.
Okay.
If you don't have a partner, then you can consider freezing your egg. Why is this? Because the embryo has a better capacity to revive after once you thaw that freezing and thawing process. The embryo has a better capacity. But egg, they are a bit poor on that. In percentage, I would say like embryo will survive 95% of the time, and the egg would survive around 60 to 70% of the time. So that means if you are freezing 10 egg, and when you are using it in future, say after 10 years, then out of 10, 6 may survive, so 4 may not survive. Then that brings a risk. So it's better to discuss with your fertility specialist about the number of the egg to be frozen. And so what matters is at what age you freeze the egg. Now, because that will determine the quality of the egg. Now, if the quality of the egg is not good, no matter you freeze 30 or 40 egg, that is not going to work.
Okay. Oh, I've learned something new right here. When you talked about it's easier, you would rather freeze an embryo rather than just an egg. Oh, okay. My ladies, I hope you have heard that. Okay.
Now, that's a myth, you know, that someone thinks like if I go for egg freezing and if I go for IVF even at 45, so the success is your cert. That's a myth.
It is a myth.
Yeah.
We're going to get into some of the myths of IVF and some of the, misconceptions around that. But before we get into that, the first baby born off of IVF was born in the year 1978. That was the first successful IVF baby. Right here in the country, just how effective has IVF been so far, being that you work at Fertility Point Kenya, and this is something that you undertake?
IVF have been effective in solving their problem of infertility. It's not only when we say IVF, it's not just a IVF, it's like other form of infertility treatment as well, like IVF, ICSI, or donor program or surrogacy program. They all they have all helped the couple to have a baby. Now, it all depends on the consistency of the treatment, because one cycle of treatment may not be enough. So 40 to 50% of the time of the couple, they get conceived in first attempt, but remaining they may require second or third or even fourth attempt of IVF. Now, the direction of the treatment, the direction means whether you are using your own egg or the donor egg or the surrogacy, and their indications are different in the case. That also matters, that how soon the success will be there. Now, if you are somewhere near 45 years and you still persist using your own egg, then you may not be successful even after 3, 4, 5 attempt, or never be successful. But if you go for a donor egg at that point of time when you are 45, and you may get successful in the very first attempt.
Okay. All right. Dr. Mohammed, if you may talk about some of the stigma around IVF.
So there are ethical issues involved, which are being fertilized, and development of several embryos. So the question is, what do we do with these extra embryos? So that's the major issue. And then there is, of course, there is religious objection, whereby people always relate to natural methods of conception rather than the IVF. Then there is the financial burden involved, whereby it is believed, of course, like the rich or the one who can afford will be able to undergo the IVF. So there are social stigma also, as in people will say, why go that way instead of just doing the normal way.
Yeah.
So there are misunderstanding also and misconception in that people always believe that if you do IVF, then you are guaranteed at the end of the day to conceive and carry the baby up to term, but which is not necessarily the case. So yeah, those are the few I could talk about.
Yeah, you've mentioned costs. Maybe Dr. Rajesh, you may help us talk about that. Just how expensive, okay, expensive is relative. What is the cost of IVF in the country?
It will range from somewhere between 400 to 500,000 shilling. So now that depends on between center to center, but it's roughly beyond that. So one should budget for around $500,000 for one round of IVF.
Around $500,000 for one round, and you're not guaranteed that it's going to work on the first round. Wow, that may be a lot. You know, I can imagine someone who has really put their money together to go for it, and then on the first round it doesn't happen. Could there be a reason why it may not work? Mainly?
Yeah, mainly it is a God factor. You know, how we are like a farmer, you know.
Yeah.
So this is also reproduction. Even a farmer does a reproduction process there in the farm. So we work with the egg and the sperm. We fertilize it in the lab, and then we put those embryo in the womb lining, in the uterus, to get it implanted. Just like a farmer, what he does, he works with the seeds, he works with the soil, which is like a uterus, seeds is like a embryo, and then he sows the seeds, and then he rests lives on God, whether, I don't know, he's not sure whether it will germinate or not. So if he needs, say, 10 plants, he will sow 20 seeds. Yeah? That process of implantation is beyond the scope of the science now, right now. It may get improved in future, but right now that factor is under the control of God. That's why we always say that the success rate is around 50 to 60, 70% with one attempt.
50 to 60 percent.
With one attempt.
Okay.
Even with transferring good quality of embryo in a good uterine environment.
Okay. As we wind up, could you touch on some of the side effects of IVF? Because everything has, their side effects.
Yeah, the medical side effects of IVF can be related to the drugs and injections. It can be like hyperstimulations, where when we give injections to develop more eggs, and then that can lead to like hyperstimulation like situation where there can be a gastric upset or bloating, but these are the minors and they quickly goes off within a week. So so far the risk of hyperstimulation has gone down because of the modified stimulation techniques. So that's not an issue now. Sometimes there can be a risk of infection because of this continuous manipulation with the uterus and cervix. Otherwise, there's no major complication of IVF.
Okay, there's no major complication.
The one that twin pregnancy, they say twin pregnancy or triplet, but some consider twin as a bloom than a complication,
Okay.
So that's not.
All right. So Dr. Rajesh has said sometimes it's all up to God. And Dr. Mohammed, I don't know if you have encountered maybe a lady in your field, where someone may have been termed as infertile, but later on they come and tell you, you know what, I was able to actually conceive and I have a baby and I did it naturally. Have you encountered that?
Yes, it is possible because there are certain percentage of unexplained cause of infertility. Sometimes you will do all your investigations for both the couples and find that everything is working well, but for some reason they can't really conceive. But as he said, it is up to God. It will take its own time, and definitely when the time is right for you, you will conceive.
All right. If you do believe in miracles, then miracles do happen.
Let me add on this.
Okay, as you finish because of time.
There are the studies where 10% of the couple, they conceived after a failed IVF. So there are data that pregnancy can happen after failed IVF.
All right. So they went the IVF way. They paid all that money. It didn't happen, but now
the very next cycle they conceived.
Okay. We are running out of time. We need to wind up this conversation. Thank you so much for joining me on this conversation, and thank you for getting into it and allowing us to understand it even better. Now, on behalf of the team that made this possible, from our directors, producers, camera operators, we say thank you for watching and do have a lovely day. We meet again not next week. Ni kama nimejipatia holiday. Tomorrow, same time and place.
Reimagining spaces and turning them into playful, provocative architecture is what Yinka Ilori specializes in. Inspired by his childhood stories and Nigerian roots, we caught up with him to take a look at his recent works.
This colourful installation is called In Plants We Trust. The work of British-Nigerian designer Yinka Ilori can be found in London's Mayfair district. Ilori had a mission.
I wanted to try and create a safe space, place of reflection, meditation, using plants and greenery. So come here, sit down, have a conversation, reflect, read, whatever you want to do, but just being around, a green space.
The Londoner loves working with bright, vibrant colours. His installation, called Happy Street in southwest London, brightens up a gloomy space under a railway bridge. He wants to bring more positivity to dull urban spaces.
When I create an installation in the studio, I have ownership of that work, but when it goes into public space, it doesn't belong to me anymore. It belongs to the people, and they are able to create their own narrative, and the fabric of that work becomes one of the community. Also, it kind of gives those people a sense of belonging, and also makes them feel proud of their environment.
He's produced countless installations for art galleries and events, like this playground for adults during the 2019 Cannes Film Festival. Yinka's always bursting with new ideas.
I just want to do a lot more kind of public work, Yeah, that's where my heart is set on, and what I love doing most, because I get to sort of design it and leave it, and then just seeing people's reaction to it is just nice.
Yinka, the son of Nigerian immigrants, launched his design career in 2011 when he reinvented second-hand chairs, giving them a multicolored makeover. Much of his work is inspired by the stories and West African fabrics from his childhood.
Storytelling is based around sort of who I am. And I think as a kid, I've always felt I was living sort of two lives and two cultures, British and Nigerian. And I love both of those cultures, but how do I celebrate them? And I think the best way for me was to do it through furniture. So take those narratives that I was kind of, told while I was young, and I love trying to, retell them in my own way.
Yinka dreamt up these crockery designs in 2020 during the first coronavirus lockdown.
My obsession with colours is definitely something that's been inherited from my mum and dad. I always wondered, my mum, where did she get her inspiration of colour from? It was obviously from her mum, because that's been passed on to my mother and it's passed on to me. Colour is just, it's something that's just, makes me feel positive and good.
Positive feelings in the urban jungle, whether by day or night. Yinka Ilori makes London more colourful, and that is something many appreciate.
The latest addition to the Everard Reed Gallery is this impressive building, Circa, where art spills over into the streets of Jersey. I'm here to meet with Mark to find out more about this wonderful space. Mark, which artist is featured here?
Ayanda Mabulu. It's easiest name to remember talking to you because you've got exactly the same name. Amazing. Well, just to a slightly bigger picture is the way the world works for me as a contemporary art dealer is that sometimes